Michael, it's been a little while since you and I were in the same room when we did the Rage Select podcast.
Yeah, it has. I don't remember the last time we did that.
Yeah,
it's been a very long time.
It's been a bit. I don't know. What do we think? Is this an improvement? Is this a downgrade? What are we thinking here?
No, it's nice.
Thumbs up. You give it a thumbs up or thumbs down on Steam? 0 or 100? We know those the only metrics on the internet are 0 or 100.
Well, we got to review bomb it first.
That's true. That's true. What's getting review bombed right now? It's the Suicide Squad is like before it's even out getting review bombed because people are like hashtag Snyderverse, and James Gunn's like, I don't fucking care.
They're review bombing a game or something right now too, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that right here today on the Rage Select podcast. You're Rage Select. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mike.
Unfortunately, we're also. I just got guys, like I wanted to have a real feel-good podcast, and so I've tried to develop what I've considered to be the podcast shit sandwich, where it's like we got a lot of really fun stuff at the beginning, we got a lot of really fun stuff at the end, we got a lot of horrible Activision news in the middle. So
what else is new?
Yeah, well, lots of other stuff is new.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the world.
For example, I watched the Fast and Furious 9 movie last week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm so late on my review, but I wasn't about to go to. Is it weird that okay, so Austin has COVID and everything's fucking crazy, and I'm not going outside. I was thinking about going outside. I'm not going outside. But then I almost wanted to go outside to watch that M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Oh, old.
Because everyone is like, this movie's so terrible. And I'm like, you know what? I've seen every single movie that guy has made, and there are some really bad movies in there. I want to know just how terrible is the latest one.
Yeah, because I read the graphic novel it's based on.
Oh my god, it's based on a graphic novel?
Yeah, it's based on a graphic novel. I think it's either a graphic novel or just a comic called Sandcastles.
Okay.
Kind of thing. And the graphic novel's real dark kind of thing, because it is about people getting old on a beach.
Yeah.
Just sort of randomly. But the book doesn't tell you why it happens kind of thing. It's more vague about shit. Where the movie gives an explanation and it kind of just makes it stupider.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of memes going on about it right now.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I think people keep marketing movies with memes on accident.
All right.
Because they did that with, Vin Diesel with the family.
Oh, right.
Or I keep seeing memes where people are going yeah, you have to stop going to the beach that makes you old or whatever. they use the Scott Pilgrim where it's I was going to the beach to go to the beach that makes you old. He's like, the beach makes you old?
Right.
Stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, speaking of Fast and Furious 9, I don't know if I think I might be... I don't know, man. I feel like everybody kind of liked that movie, and I think I've talked with you before about this, and I think there's definitely a thing that happens when you stop being impressed by the action, right? I think it's happened to me in Black Widow, and I think it happened to me a little bit in some of the other Marvel shows, and happened to me here, where it's so much of Fast and Furious was now this fucking crazy thing happened. Now this car has a magnet and it just pulls other cars over to it. And I'm just like, you already pulled a bank vault down the street and destroyed Rio de Janeiro. I watched a drone tear up downtown LA in 7. I don't know. I mean, I kind of wanted something, I guess, more, and
your expectations were in a weird this is the thing about the F9 or I keep saying Fantastic Fast and the Furious.
It's called the Fate of the Furious, right?
Yeah, the entire Fast and the Furious franchise has given people weird expectations.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the literal sense of the word weird, because people, I don't know if they're low or high expectations. I can't fucking tell.
I've been all over the place with Fast and Furious, where I remember watching the first one and I was like, I see what everybody likes, but it's not really my big thing. I'm not a racing guy. And then it's I kind of got back in when it turned into this dumb super spy fucking superhero movie, and I watched the one with the bank vault thing, and I was like, that's fucking really stupid. There's no, you have to just suspend your brain entirely for that. And then as I got older, I was like, hey man, just suspend your brain a little bit. You don't need to be taking everything so seriously, bro.
I figured out what I can compare it to in the gaming world, which is Call of Duty. because the beginnings of Call of Duty are a lot more serious in some ways.
Sure.
And then it goes batshit insane as it progresses, and that's kind of how Fast and Furious kind of went eventually.
Well, yeah. So I think I suspended my brain, and like that served me well. And they kept upping the envelope, and then I saw Hobbs and Shaw, and it was like the best one because it was just nothing but like quips and like ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
And then they went back to this one, and there's this whole meta story about like fucking Dom's brother. Was he a bad guy? What happened with Dom's father in the NASCAR when he died? And like Han is back, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, who gives a shit? I don't care. Well, that's the thing. I skipped Tokyo Drift. Everybody loves Han, and I'm just like, that was one of the when it was still mostly about racing, and I didn't give a shit because there weren't as many like machine gun heists of airplanes and stuff. That was what I was really in.
Oh, so you missed super Southern accent guy?
Yes. Who apparently was part of this movie. So
yes.
I don't know. It didn't really work for me. Like, I kind of was mad that I spent $20 to rent it. Like,
even the space thing?
Yeah, especially that. I you know me, man. I get real twitchy about space because I'm like, that's not how space works. Like, you can desecrate whatever you want on the Earth. I don't care if the car rolls down the hill, bursts into flames, and everybody gets out and just brushes glass off of them. But like, that's not how fucking space works. Give me a goddamn break, Fast and Furious. Like,
it's the power of family, Jeff.
Nope. I want to go back to. I want Hobbs and Shaw 2, where it's Jason Statham and The Rock just fucking insulting each other, and then Captain America Idris Elba and his AI motorcycle are the bad guys, and I'm just like, yes, man, that is a Mad Lib I can get behind. So yeah, that was what I did. I mean, everything else is just like ongoing, right? Ted Lasso's good, like My Hero Academia is good, whatever. Actually, it's funny because in the next few weeks, there's like going to be a shitload to talk about. I'm super excited. I mean, by the time this goes up, we'll have already seen it. But like Suicide Squad comes out this week. Yeah. I'm really interested in.
It's going to be on HBO Max, which makes it to where I don't have to leave anywhere.
Yeah. And then next week is the 3.0 plus 1.0 Evangelion movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yep. August 11th. So I'm like, hey, man, great. Great.
Fuck.
I'm more looking forward to those than I am anything else. But how about you, Michael? What have you been up to this last week?
So I spent the week just sort of relaxing.
Yeah.
I finally really started playing Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
A bit.
What do you think? Good, bad?
It's good, but it's one of those. It's the issue I have with a lot of open world games where it's just there's too much to do. If that makes sense. Like I'm constantly just like, I want to get to that shrine over there, but it's so far away. Mm-hmm. Better start walking there now, kind of thing.
Well, plus that game, like you'll start walking towards a shrine, and it's like there's just all these other things like
on the
over
way.
here. Oh, what about me over here?
And like I fought one of those robots with the guardian robots, not the big ones, but the small ones in the shrine.
Yep.
And I used all of my weapons to the point where like they all broke and it had just a little bit of health left. I'm like, okay, let's figure this out.
Bombs?
So I had to arrow it.
Oh.
Like I memorized because every time they're about to die, they go into like laser mode.
Yeah.
So I had to memorize that there's 4 every time. So I just stood right like face to face with it. Mm-hmm. So when it would laser, I just dodged 4 times and then just keep punching it, and then dodge 4 times and keep punching it until I ran out of weapons, and then it finally died. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, so once I was back out in the world, I'm like, I have like 2 weapons just from what happened from that robot, and I have like 3 arrows left.
There you go.
And that keeps happening to me. And so I was finally able to get another health from it. But besides that, I ordered the 80th anniversary Bugs Bunny Blu-ray.
Okay.
It's just the series. It's like 3 discs, a shit ton of Bugs Bunny cartoons in it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have Bully for Bugs, which I think is ridiculous. But I watched all those, and they're all really good still. And they had some special features that I watched. They had the 50th anniversary special, which I had never seen. Okay. That has like Bill Murray and Chevy Chase and all these celebrities talking about Bugs Bunny, which I thought was fascinating because I'd never seen it before.
All right.
But other than that, I haven't really been doing much because I'm going to start a new job soon. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. But I'm also waiting on an Ecto one to show up, so hopefully it's still there when I get back.
Sounds like a relaxing and fulfilling week to me.
I'm also waiting for the new Avengers thing.
We'll get to that. So, okay. last week we had this is just really weird. Okay. Last week, Annapurna Interactive had a showcase, and it's weird because I feel like Annapurna Interactive has been just kind of like...
Do I know Anna?
Sneaking... Probably not. I don't know. Has been like kind of sneaking its way in, and now is like everything that they showed I really want to play. Like I guess they're kind of like the artsy fartsy Devolver Digital, right? Where it's like everything they've got on this list I really want to play.
So they're the A24 of weird studios.
I guess, but saying. I don't know. A24, not everything A24 puts out is the greatest thing of all time. But yeah, they had a really solid lineup here. I was actually watching the live stream. I started like messaging Michael. I'm like, hey, a thing happened.
Yeah,
a thing happened
as it progressed.
Yeah. So they had, they had a bunch of updates. They had a trailer for The Artful Escape, which is a game that I've been wanting to play for quite some time, ever since they announced it, where it's like you're like the son of a prog rock superstar, and you've got to like develop your own superstar like a persona, and so it's just this super psychedelic, like side-scrolling, playing a guitar like game, but the music for it's really good, and it's, I don't know, this one's been on my radar for a little while, but I think it just looks really like creative and fun.
Yeah,
so
it's fascinating to look at. Like the art design is just pops.
Yeah. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen this before?
No, I don't think I have, to be honest.
Michael, would it be crazy to you to know that I believe Carl Weathers is in this, one of the voices in this game?
Well, they probably just offered him some stew or something.
I think he's like the
that makes sense that Jason Schwartzman's in this.
Yeah, Lena Headey, Jason Schwartz, and Mark Strong, and Carl Weathers are like the
I love that it's
backup
and
folks.
Carl Weathers, by the way.
Yep.
That means he got the most of his thing in this.
But yeah, it just looks this crazy. Like, I can't even really tell if it's just like a side-scrolling rhythm game, or like there doesn't appear to be any combat or anything. It's just this dude like running to the right and then playing like super guitar solos.
I want to play this,
but I'm all into it. I think Artful Escape looks absolutely delightful, personally. And let's see, from there, we got an update on Neon White, which is the next thing from the guy that made Donut County. And this is the one where it's like you're a bunch of demon assassins sent to heaven to kill God or something.
Yeah, I remember when they announced this, and everyone was very confused as to what it was.
Yeah, so like it's kind of interesting. They show like it's divided up into a bunch of very small levels, and in the levels there are cards, and the card will be like there'll be like this soul card, and so it'll be a card that is like a gun, right?
Yeah.
And so you can use that gun to shoot the number of times that the card has, or you can burn those cards to do like a double jump or a dash or a thing. So the levels are made, they have a kind of an example where they show the levels being used for like you can get through them, but then it seems like the optimal play method is like speed running, right? Of just like burning through a card and picking up another one and then shooting a guy and doing that thing. And then in between, apparently it's like some kind of dating simulator, like visual novel where you're talking to people and doing stuff. It looks really fascinating. It's like a bunch of concepts that I don't think I've seen before, all kind of working in tandem.
Yeah, because I remember it got announced, I want to say E3.
Was it E3 or was it one of the Nintendo Directs?
I can't remember. I just remember it being announced and everyone just being fucking confused.
Yeah, I think that it's got a really interesting art style. It kind of reminds me of like Super Hot a little bit. Like,
I can definitely see that.
Everything is very white because you're in heaven, and it's kind of a little bit abstract. But yeah, it's... So yeah, this is the part where they show like a 20-second run, and then they show like a 5-second run of the same level. I kind of miss, do you remember back in the old days when like Doom and Duke Nukem and shit had like a par time for the level?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I just finished replaying the re-release of 3D, and it has like par, your time. I think dev time is another one on there.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
So it kind of reminds me of that too. But I don't know. It looks really interesting. Like it, probably not game of the year, but then on the other hand, I never would have expected Hades to be my favorite game from 2020.
That's true.
So
This seems like one of those games that I might like, depending on if I can wrap my head around the card system.
Yeah,
because that's the hardest thing about card system games. It's like you have to wrap your head around the way the cards work before you can get anywhere every time.
But I like the fact that I mean, I always like it when like a visual novel is connected to something that's like this, where it's like a real action game, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like then you do the puzzle part. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Let's see from there. What was next? Oh yeah, Outer Loop these are the guys that made the Falconeer, which was that VR game where you had the little am I getting that wrong? Was it the Falconeer? It was Falcon Age was the name of it. Was the VR game where you had the Falcon and you could like fist bump it and you would like use it to throw it out. And they had a few of these where this was just like them talking to these guys. They're making some new game. It's unclear exactly what. Like there's like some concept art in the background if you look at people's screens, but there's not really like a lot going on here. I never played the Falcon Age, so it's not like I'm exactly.
I never did either, but I heard good things.
Yeah. It appears to be like some skateboarding and graffiti and kind of like, I don't know, urban traversal stuff in here, but I'm not sure.
Falcon skateboarding is what you're saying.
Falcon skateboard families. Let's see. From there was this game called A Memoir Blue, which appears to be one of those really artsy games about just like, I remember my childhood. And it's interesting because it's like there's this kind of main character that's rendered in a very realistic format, but then there's like these memories that they'll go back to where the characters in the memories are like very cartoony.
Okay, that's really cool.
So it's like a whole different art style. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. There's
the
a
drugs
lot.
they're on must be insane, though.
A lot of these games. I think a lot of these games, though, it's like, yes, I remember my childhood, and I'm like, I don't care about childhood. It's like, show me the one about the demons that are shooting and fucking in heaven again, because that's more my speed than this one. I mean, it's very beautiful, obviously, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, this one, we'll see.
It's nice.
Let's see. Jessica Mack is the person that made Everyday Shooter and Beat Shapes, which were, I believe, Everyday Shooter was a PS3 game that I was really into.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
And Sound Shapes, which I was less into, but they're making a new game. It's unclear. It has something to do with music, as all their games do. This is another one where they didn't really tell a whole heck of a lot. So, let's see. From there, we saw a game called Storyteller. We're going to be through this conference in a matter of moments.
Jiffy.
This is really cool. It's like there's a title, there's like some blank panels, and there's some characters and objects, and it'll be like tragedy, and then you have to like put the characters in the panels and then like add the modifiers to make like a tragedy, a love story, a comedy, and it looks really interesting. Like it's this really kind of very simple, very cutesy kind of layout. But it looks like as you go on, there gets to be more and more like more and more modifiers and more things that you can put in.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. I like it that it like the little panels react in real time. So if you do something that doesn't work, they start becoming confused about what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that because it's just like it's the guy in love with a certain character, and then he puts like a gravestone of another character. He's like, why should I fucking care?
Yeah. But like, yeah, there's some here. It's like cures vampirism. The queen gets married, and they look like they can get really like kind of complicated and funny. And I dig the idea.
It's a nice little like small thing, but it's so creative in what you can do with it that I can't help but kind of like that idea.
Yeah. It's going to be on the Switch and Steam, which I think it would be a really good Switch game, right?
I think so, because it doesn't look like it needs a lot of power.
Plus,
general.
you could if you could play it on the Switch in handheld, you could like use the touch controls to just like drag stuff places, which would be pretty good. Let's see. There was an update for Solar Ash, which is that weird game from the people who made Hyperlight Drifter.
Okay.
I'm not totally. I mean, I guess I kind of fell off of Hyperlight Drifter. I never finished it, And this one looks fine, but it looks an awful lot like Hyper Light Drifter.
It's very much like a speed thing because you have to keep gathering stuff to keep your speed up, if I remember correctly.
Something along those lines. Like you're on the clouds, and yeah, it's some kind of
like
parkour-ish.
you're not allowed to stop, if I remember.
Yeah, I don't know. This one's weird, but it's not entirely doing it for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it seems like
it's just really abstract.
It's
I
like,
don't really know what's happening.
No, I see what you got. Really creative, weird character designs. There's big monsters. I don't know. It's just not tickling my funny bone as much as I would care for. Now, this is the one that I really liked, which this isn't actually a game announcement. This is another one of these like dev announcements, but it's for this company called Ivy Road that's being made by Davey Rendon and Carla Zimonia. Davey Rendon is the guy that made The Beginner's Guide and The Stanley Parable, and Carla Zimonia is one of the people who made Gone Home and Tacoma. And I'm like, oh, well, see, I'm not always a big fan of like narrative-driven walking simulators, but those are some of my favorite narrative-driven walking simulators.
100%.
So, like, I would like to see what the two of these people do together.
It could go either way with its two types of things, because Stanley Parable's fucking insane, where Gone Home is a very thoughtful sort of thing. It might, for all we know, it might be both, and I'm excited about the idea.
Or maybe they just come together and it creates the most like tepid beige game of all time.
That would be kind of amazing if that's what they did.
Did you ever play The Beginner's Guide? I think Grant and I played all the way through that on Patreon.
Because a lot of those games are very PC heavy.
Yeah.
I'm not a PC gamer.
Yeah, I don't think they ever... Well, we're still waiting for Stanley Parable to come out on consoles, right?
I think so.
Is that like new console version supposed to be coming out, I think, this year?
Pretty soon, actually.
Also, one of the guys that did music for Minecraft is doing the music for them, so...
Okay.
Seems
That's
like
nice.
a good pedigree of stuff. I don't know. And this was this kind of charming little trailer where the two of them just talk nonsense to each other the entire
Just
time.
have tea.
They have a lot of different teas, and it's kind of just like a little I don't know. Like the opening thing is they sit down and the lady is like, what's that game? The one that has all the little faces where you put the faces up and down, and the other guy's like, Stratego, and she's like, really? And he's like, no. Just start their little thing. So, but yeah, I'm really excited to play whatever these two come up with, because they have proven that they can make games that I'm interested in. So,
100%.
Let's see. After that, we saw this update for, I believe the name of this game is Skin Deep. Yeah, from Blendo Games, which is the company that made Quadrilateral Cowboy and 30 Flights of Loving. And it seems like, okay, I think that the thing for this is it's like there's a spaceship full of cats. They're getting hijacked by space pirates, and you are a mercenary that has been unthawed to kill all the space pirates. But then, like, there's all these weird scenarios that they go over, like, oh, you don't have any ammo, so the person throws the gun at the airlock and sucks this pirate out into space. There's one that's like, oh, you're really smelly, and so the pirates can smell you, so you've got to like wash yourself off in the bathroom before you can kill them. I don't know. It looks really crazy. It kind of reminds me of Quadrilateral Cowboy and that kind of very strange like way of putting together like a roguelike, or like I think that there was a comparison. A lot of people have been comparing it to Void Bastards, which I think it
could see that, yeah,
kind of has a little bit of that. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of this kind of weirdness. So
it's an interesting idea, and I like the insanity of that sort of concept in general.
Yeah. Swordfish. Yeah, this is the one where they just like throw a missile with a big sword on it into somebody. So, yeah. So that one looked good. And then there were some just general announcements. The Pathless is coming out on Steam November 16th. What Remains of Edith Finch is coming to the App Store. So is the PS4, PS5, and Xbox. I Am Dead, the one that Tessa and I played, where you're a ghost in a lighthouse town.
I remember that one.
And then Telling Lies and Gorgoa are coming to Xbox Game Pass.
We did Telling Lies, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was one with like that discount Tom Hardy from Upgrade.
I remember liking that too because they made a lot of they made that other one with the interrogation room one.
It was the Her Story.
Yeah, Her Story.
Yeah,
I really like that one. I actually did play that one.
From there, it's funny. I started. I actually had the YouTube chat up when this was going live, and I was watching it. And then I stopped because everybody was just like, "Show the cat game! Show the cat game! Show." I don't know why people. Michael, do you know why YouTubers, like why not YouTubers? I'm a YouTuber. Do you know why the people in YouTube chat are so fucking stupid? Like, do you know why they demand things of what is obviously a pre-recorded live stream? Like the people in the control room are going to be like, "Fuck, guys, the YouTube chat is asking for the cat game. Just throw all the other announcements away and slot the cat game announcement in here."
Only cat games from
right?
now on.
As if it's not a thing where they just like hit the play button on their obviously pre-recorded. This isn't a fucking Twitch stream, bro. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, you know, whenever they have you ever dived into the hellish hell pit that is the YouTube live stream chat for like Microsoft's E3 press conference?
I tried a few times and I'm like, no, I'm good.
And they're just like, show Zelda, and it's like, that's not even this fucking company. What do you think, that Microsoft's just gonna stop their live stream and be like, Nintendo? There were like 4 guys in the chat room that were really loud. Do you want to just come and show what you've got for Zelda? No, I guess we'll just keep showing Gears of War because this is the fucking Microsoft like press conference.
Although I'd love for it to randomly be like a Gears of War Zelda game.
Cover-based Zelda. So yeah, they did. You say you saw this one, right?
I did, because everyone was talking about Stray, because it's one of those games that the internet loves cats.
Yep.
So it comes up a lot. So this was all over my Facebook feed for a bit.
What I really liked about that. I think they originally announced this at the PS5.
Yes,
thing,
that
right?
was when they did the
initial reveal.
I can't remember. It was whenever it was. Yeah, it was the same thing when they first showed off Miles Morales. This was in it too.
Yeah, this is the very first one, the very first PS5 reveal. You know what I liked about this quite a bit was the fact that it wasn't just like, I feel like a lot of times when there's a cat game, it's just like memes, lol. You know, cats, lol. Yeah. And this was just like, seems like an adventure game with a cat, as opposed to like, oh, you got to knock down all the things off the shelf because that's what a cat does.
Yeah, it's like a normal, just like, hey, solve a puzzle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like a lot of games that are like you know, goat simulator type things. If that makes sense. Like I Am Bread. Yeah. It's just like lols, like, you know, I has cheeseburger kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But this is just literally like this cat lives in this world, and so you interact with this world.
Obviously, also they showed off this thing where at some point you get this little like drone that can talk to people, so you're not just you can actually interact with stuff as opposed to just having your cat powers. They also showed there's going to be like enemies and some kind of rudimentary combat. It seems like there's some like running away and some attacking. But it seems like the whole point of the story is going to be figuring out like why it's all robots and where did all the people go, and so
because you're like you're pretty much one of the only living beings in this entire fucking thing. Yeah, that's fascinating for that reason.
And there's there is a button for like rub up against a robot, like do cute things, do cat things.
It's very exciting, to be honest.
Scratch on the side of a thing. I mean, it looks nice. This is one of those ones where I feel like it's really going to live and die based on the quality of the actual gameplay and like whether or not the story is compelling enough to drag you all the way through it.
Oh, right? 100%, because it's not like an action type thing. Yeah, it reminds me of the way Death Stranding is that like you're into this or you're not. Right, is really what it's going to come down to.
Yep, 100%. And then let's see. After that, we got an update from. I really liked this. This was an update from No Code, who is the company that made Stories Untold and Observer, the games that Amanda and I really like. Mostly this is just like, oh man, how cool is this company? And we all love working here. And I knew this guy since I was 3 years old. But one of the things I loved was that they talked about how people always tell them how scary their games are. And they're just like, we were just making like science fiction games. Like we were trying to be scary. But they are now. But the next game is definitely going to be scary, apparently.
I think it'd be funny if it's not scary in any shape, way, or form.
Yeah, when they try to be scary, it just comes off as like funny.
It's like booga booga booga, look at a thing, and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that would be great. Again, I mean, I know why they put these sorts of things into these like live stream montages, but it's just like, I don't need to hear about your relationship with like the other dude at the I don't know you guys, like
Not your friend.
yeah. And then I believe that last was there's going to be DLC for the Outer Wilds. I really like this guy who introduced it. I don't know if he's like the developer or whatever, but like at one point he just says like, you're probably asking yourself like, why did we even do this? And then he just like stares into the camera for like a solid 10 seconds without saying anything. And he's like, so here's the trailer. Because the thing is that, you know, Outer Wilds is that thing where it's that cycle, right? And like to beat the game, you have to kind of figure out the secrets of what's going on in the solar system. So like, how could there be DLC for this game? And apparently it's just going to integrate like back into the main game. Like it's just going to it's not going to be separate from the main game story. It's going to be like integrated into the actual story of the game, which will be really interesting because since Outer Wilds is about accumulating knowledge about how to do things rather than like unlocking anything, it's like, well, if you already know how to beat the game, you could just beat the game in like the loop
takes like no time.
The loop in the game is like 10 minutes long, right? So you have to restart the game every 10 minutes. So no matter what it is, you're going to have to be able to beat the game in 10 minutes. So it's like, oh, well, if the DLC is integrated back into the game, then all you would do is just go find the DLC as opposed to beating the game in 10 minutes.
It was one of those games that like everyone I know who played it fucking loved it.
Yeah. I tried it a few times and I got pretty far on it. I just I got to a point where it was kind of like what was that pirate the ship game that we played, the 1-bit ship game from the Papers, Please guy?
Oh, that one. I forgot the name of it, but I know what you're talking. King of the something?
God, what the hell was it called? Yeah, it was where like I got to a point where I was either going to have to quit or look up an answer, and I didn't want to look up an answer, and so I quit.
That sounds right, yeah.
Lucas Pope. It was Return of the Obra Dinn. Yeah. So, and that was it. That was the whole show. But lots of good stuff. Like not very much
nice
filler.
Stuff, yeah.
You know, seems like if you're into artsy experimental video games, like that's all good stuff. Not a lot of Call of Duties or anything.
No,
but,
yeah.
So.
Cats in Call of Duty, they said.
Let's see. From there, let's talk about Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, let's do that, I guess.
All right. So it's kind of amazing the amount of time on the last podcast that I spent on this and how much news came after all the things that I initially even said.
Well, they keep just fucking doing insane shit.
Yep. So let's do this in the order that I have these set up, because I have them set up in a very specific order. So, Activision, so the workers in the Activision Blizzard are basically they formed an alliance, quote unquote. A bunch of workers came together to form an alliance of workers. I don't know, maybe they could bargain in a collective way, or like pay some dues in order to like have a representative that would go and negotiate with the company on behalf of all of the workers.
That's more of the Horde's job, though.
This is the ABK Workers Alliance, which is Activision Blizzard King, because we keep forgetting that King Software is part of this whole thing.
I forget constantly that King's part of this shit.
Yeah, so part of this is actually, I think, let me just see. Let me just run through here. You know what? Fuck it. We're doing it live. One of the reasons that this is happening, and one of the things we didn't talk about last week, and this is so weird, is, and I did a lot of reading fucking web pages today. So, okay. The people at Activision Blizzard had it was like 3 or 4 demands, right? They wanted an end to collective bargaining, they wanted salary discrepancy, they wanted input on hiring practices, and there was one other thing. Oh, they wanted an independent investigation into the stuff that was going on. So one of the things that Bobby Kotick announced last week was that they did hire a firm to come in and investigate what was going on internally in the company, and it is this law firm called Wilmer Hale. Wilmer Hale sucks.
Yeah.
They suck so much. Like on their webpage, it's in like half of these articles, so I just need to find like one of the ones that talks about it. Like I went to their webpage and I literally looked this up on their webpage. It says like one of the things that they do is like union avoidance.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the explicit goals on their page is like, hey, are you a CEO who wants to like, you know, not have a union? Like we can help you with that. Like are you have a bunch of sexual assault allegations in your company? Hire Wilmer Hale. We can come in and make all that shit go away for you.
It's a bad time.
They suck. There was I didn't know this, but apparently it was either in 2020 or 2019, the shareholders of Activision Blizzard made a motion to ask Activision Blizzard to adopt across the board this, I forget what it was called. I read so much shit today. I'm so tired. This thing that was used in I believe it was in the NFL. It was in some sports thing that basically says like when you are hiring people, you must interview like X amount of the people that you interview must be people of color, regardless of whether you hire them or not. You just need to have like non-white people in your pool of people that you're interviewing.
Yeah.
And so the shareholders in Activision Blizzard literally like passed a motion to ask the upper management of Activision Blizzard to adopt this as a policy moving forward. And Activision Blizzard contracted Wilmer Hale to draft their response to the investors telling them, nah, bro. They actually said that they do have this hiring like methodology for like the upper tiers of the organization, but that for like the day-to-day operations, no. And their reasoning was, it was like, one, this is part of it was this thing where it's like, well, we need to be free to like get talent as fast as possible. And I think what they were saying there was like, if a person if a high value employee comes onto the market, we want to be able to just be like, go fucking hire that guy. Not like go through this whole process and interview 14 people, make sure that X percentage are not white people. They just want to be like, go get that one guy. They also had some kind of bitching in there about like shareholders aren't allowed to micromanage the day-to-day operations of our company. Anyway, Wilmer Hale wrote the whole thing, wrote the whole response to this, which is one of the things that the people that are having a problem right now have a problem with, is because it's like, you didn't hire just like an outside company. You called up like the guys that helped you out of your last like diversity jam to come over and like, you know, to come in and do this, which is not what they wanted. They didn't want the union busters that help you cover your fucked up hiring practices to be the ones to do this, because again, it comes down to like this organization seems like they have a vested interest in making sure that like Bobby Kotick and the board of directors of Activision are happy, as opposed to like a let's see what we can do to sort this whole thing out mentality.
Like it doesn't help the actual people who are having issues. Right,
exactly. Or just like the thing is that I don't want to come off as saying that like, you know, I don't want to make it sound like the Fred Wilmer of Wilmer Hale is like Al Pacino from fucking The Devil's Advocate or anything.
How do we not know that?
He probably doesn't have like a big sex wall full of souls and shit, right?
He probably does, though.
He may. I don't know, but the problem is that like
mostly Amazon workers, though.
The problem is it kind of, it's one of these things that this whole thing to me kind of smacks of, where it's just like, Robert, think before you open your fucking mouth. Like, did you think that they weren't going to find out? Did you maybe call Wilmer Hale and say like, hey, do you guys have anything on your website about how you bust up unions whenever unions are getting ready to form? Did you do work for Amazon trying to bust up the unions over at Amazon? Because like, if this was your solution, the internet was going to find out, and then you were going to look even worse. It wasn't going to help. It was going to hurt. It was going to make you look more disconnected and bad. And
the man has too much money to think as the issue.
I guess. I mean, yeah. The thing that I wonder, though, Michael, is that and there's so much more here, and we're going to get back to it. But the thing that I wonder is whether this situation, because they are actually being brought into court by California, and because Blizzard has not been doing very well recently, and because Activision has put all of their eggs into the Call of Duty basket, there is a scenario where things line up and Activision Blizzard falls apart over the next 3 or 4 years. And not like, it's not like next week they're going to be like, we're out of business. Twitter put us out of business, But the idea that talented people will leave, right? That Blizzard, as talented people will leave, that's going to end up pushing back some of these Blizzard projects, because Blizzard doesn't have anything right now, right?
No, they don't, and they stop everything on WoW,
right?
Because of all this.
But even that's just WoW. Like Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, Diablo Immortal, that's been pushed back. Like there's all these different things where like they're relying on 4-year-old games for their revenue. Like they haven't put out anything. Like, so there becomes a question of like, if the people end up leaving, and then if the gaming public just kind of sours finally, because Blizzard has not been doing good. Warcraft 3, fucking China, the Overwatch League.
They've been in a downward spiral for years now.
Yeah, everybody fucking hates World of Warcraft. Like before this even happened, there were stories about people leaving for Final Fantasy 14 en masse because they were just like, fuck this game, I hate it now. So like the idea that they could just end up in this spiral where like talented people leave and they replace them with the people that they can get, but nobody wants to work for them because they fucking hire Union Buster and Wilmer Hale to come in and fuck everybody, and you got to put up with grabby bros who are the ones who are going to stick around, and then like you just can't get anybody that works there. Suddenly Overwatch 2 is 2024, and like Diablo 4 is 2026, and like they just haven't put anything out in a decade. I don't know.
Well, the issue comes down to the fact that they've been doing this for years.
Yeah,
like even the people that they still have, they've stopped them from doing other things anyways.
Right.
Like even the talented people are now like, no, you make Call of Duty.
Right.
Like every fucking 20 seconds.
Like Toys for Bob got totally converted.
The fucking make your pick of the fucking list of people in there.
Right.
They all make fucking Call of Duty except for King.
Yeah.
And even then, I wouldn't be surprised if they made
High
fucking
Moon.
Call of Duty fucking Candy Crush one day.
Hell, you remember when Raven used to be a company that made their own video games?
Yeah, Raven used to make really cool fucking Marvel games. And see, even the same with fucking Infinity Ward used to make really cool shit that wasn't Call of Duty related.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these guys made something, and then all of a sudden they're all just, you all make Call of Duty games now. Like they have nothing else really.
Yep.
Like even the stuff that they pulled out was the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. They basically invested in that for like 2 years, and then we're like, okay, we're done with that now. Back to Call of Duty.
Now you also make Call of Duty.
So it's like, what the fuck, guys? And this was even before all this shit happened.
Yeah. Yeah, Blizzard's been on a downward trend.
Yeah.
And Activision has been putting everything they've got into Warzone or into Call of Duty, which, to be honest, I mean, like, Call of Duty is doing very well.
Yes.
It's making them a shitload of money. But the thing is that literally the eggs are in the one basket for Activision.
Bobby Kotick is that meme where he's just like, is this a joke that peasants get that I'm too rich to understand?
Right.
Kind of thing. Like every time he does something, and it just keeps doing that.
How much could a third-party studio cost, Michael? $5?
Exactly.
So anyway, this ABK Workers Alliance, I would not be surprised if by next week I'm talking about how this is our first union, our first video game workers union.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like they're causing some shit to happen all over the place. And it's fascinating.
Yep. Let's see. This story was kind of what we just went over. We got some more horrible news from, what was this from? What was this? There was just a few more horrible stories that came out. Like, there was one about there's one about the room for mothers to breastfeed in that didn't have a lock on the door.
Oh, yeah, that
and
one.
guys would just come in and stand there, and the women would be like, "Get the fuck out of here!" They would just fucking gawp at them.
Just fucking ridiculous.
Like there was that one. I don't necessarily think this is necessary. This was kind of thrown on the heap, but I feel like it was more a bad actor. But there was that story that came out last week about some dude at one of their satellite studios that was like an IT guy that put
one,
cameras in the bathroom, in the unisex bathroom, and fucking just
consistently, the more stuff that comes out, the more fucking awful this company sounds.
This one in this story that I'm reading off VG247, actually, this one was interesting because there was this whole like penetration testing for security, and this
that was
lady,
the one that I brought up outside of the thing.
Yeah,
like that happened. That was just ridiculous.
I didn't even read that until today. Where it's
okay, yeah, I was trying to tell you about that like, on Tuesday.
Yeah,
and when I found out about it, it was like, what the fuck? Because it wasn't like, according to them, that wasn't the only person they did stupid shit like that to.
Yeah, like
in that same conference.
This one lady came to interview for, or to just consult or do whatever for this penetration testing job they had, and apparently like, I mean, you know, did you walk into the wrong room? We're going to make a bunch of sex jokes about penetration testing. And this lady was just like, well, man, fuck you, assholes, and like left. And then years later, Blizzard apparently was attempting to hire the company that she ended up being the COO for. And she went to the CEO and was like, this is what happened to me when I went to interview with those guys or talk to those guys. And so they basically jacked up their price by 50% as a quote unquote misogyny tax, that they were like, you need to pay us 50% more. And then we're going to like donate that to like women's groups and stuff.
The best thing is she got them banned from that conference.
Yeah,
like outright. Like they're not allowed to be in whatever conference that had happened at.
Good Lord.
Since like that whole thing happened. Like it was just such a like Blizzard, what the fuck kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also kind of amazing that, you know, we don't hear about this stuff until the kind of walls come tumbling down, and even
people will say it. The worst part is that people will constantly yell it as loud as they can, but nobody is listening to them.
Yes.
And now that this is happening, all of a sudden everyone cares because it's a PR disaster.
Yep. Which also goes to J. Allen Brack, who left, CEO of Blizzard after, what was the guy? Who's the guy that came in that he was such a Mike Morhaime was the CEO from the beginning, and then he left, and then J. Allen Brack came in to be the CEO, and he left and has been replaced by a couple of people.
It's a bad sign in general for anybody to be like, peace out, I'm fucking getting the fuck out of here.
The thing is that lawsuit like talks about one instance of him just like brushing like drunk sexual assault or like inappropriate antics under the rug instead of addressing it, and I get the feeling that there was probably more than one story, and that he was just like, I'm going to a cabin in the woods.
Yeah,
I'm like, not going to be around. I'm deleting my Twitter. I'm out of here.
Like, I am getting the fuck out of here before they find all the skeletons.
Yep.
Because even if they find them, they won't have as much to do against me.
Yep. In addition, we also saw the departure of who's this guy? Jesse Meschuk, who was like the
your top HR-ish.
Yeah, top HR director. This, I think, was actually... Was this the one? Yeah, there was an Axios story that I recommend that everybody go read that was kind of part of this, where they talked about how just like HR at this company was a fucking disaster.
Yeah, 100%.
Like people kept leaving, so there was no continuity between things. There were these stories about like, what was the one where the guy, this woman got like manhandled by one of the guys and she went to HR, and the HR person was like, well, you don't seem really all that upset for having just been like assaulted. So, you know, I don't know what you want me to do, or like, just like suck it up and go back to your desk. Like there was all these different,
a lot of stuff like that.
And like this very much rotating, like apparently, you know, like employees had to keep track of a history of like things happening because HR would not. Apparently the entire HR department was just like a fucked up mess over there.
100%. Like every time you hear something involving, like, well, why didn't you talk to them? It's like, I did, and this was their response.
Right.
And every single time the response is just the fucking worst possible thing you could tell somebody.
Yes. So we also had that.
Yes.
So we're about halfway through. Let's see. Some Overwatch sponsors are pulling out. T-Mobile pulled out of Overwatch League sponsorship over this. There's not really much more to it than that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see more moving ahead.
It's going to keep happening. Like, this thing keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Like, if I was any sponsor of these things, I'd be like, we should go.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as we can.
Yeah. I don't even know, like, what... I don't know what Activision Blizzard does. I mean, I don't know if they do that thing where they just make the useless platitudes, right? And then they just trust that next week fucking Dark Souls 4 gets announced, and so everybody forgets, right? And everybody just goes on with their business. But, like, the thing is that Activision and, like, Bobby Kotick and Blizzard have spent the last 4 years just constantly coming up as, like, what's this new bad thing about one of the two of them, right? So, you know, if this was like one thing, I could see it going away, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it was like the original story happening and then that was it, that probably some people would forget about it. Like, I'm sure some people would bring it up as they would, but this is it's like Fallout 76 where it's like something new keeps happening,
right?
To where, like, every time it feels like it might lose the news cycle, fucking this happens. Like I don't know if you have that news story where the person who made that statement fucking, like, left Twitter kind of thing.
Oh yeah that was the lady that came back at this is the lady that when the lawsuit was first put out, basically went online to be first off, this person used to work for the George W. Bush administration.
This is my favorite thing about it, is that this person, like, defended, like, torture. And for, like, ages. Where 3 days where gamers tweeted at her was enough to make her leave.
She posted a tweet that was like, the problem with whistleblowing. Also, I mean, just the original statement that came out the first time that this came up, because the thing is that you were on 2 weeks ago, right? When we first talked about this.
When we first talked about
it. When we first talked about it, it was just like the very beginning, right? And so I think that, you know, my response, like last week I had this whole big thing where I was talking about it, where I was like, I feel like 2 weeks ago, I was just like, well, I guess we'll see what happens, because I'm so used to this sort of thing happening, and then we wait for the trial to see. But it was like, oh, fucking no. Like, 48 hours after that, there was more than enough to talk about. But this lady put out that statement that was just like, fucking bureaucratic overreach. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, we're all good here at Activision Blizzard. And then it was like behind her, the pitchforks and torches were coming out.
It's that fucking that gag from Naked Gun where, like, the fireworks building is on fire.
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Just move along. And it's like, whoa, this is just getting worse.
So over the weekend, apparently she started muting people on her Twitter. She started like hiding replies, and then you know, deleted her fucking Twitter account.
Just fucking left.
I mean, you know, that's I always find it interesting when somebody like this, who is obviously, this person is meant to be like a PR mouthpiece for the company, can't, like, it's like, that's your job. That's your job. Like,
well, she it was clear that she was used to, like, CNN type shit,
right,
where people will be very polite about it, being just like, well, what would you have to say about these allegations, kind of thing, and she'd be like, bullshit thing, and then they'll just sort of write it down.
Yes, bullshit. Bullshit.
She was not used to gamers being like, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense, or kind of thing,
or just the horror show that is Twitter.
Yes,
it's just like, fuck you. I hope you die. Fuck you.
I hope
like,
you just fucking explode in a car, kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, she was not prepared for that.
Nope. Yeah. It was pretty bad. Also, Activision Blizzard had an investor call this week,
Jesus.
Which was, I don't know. This was, I mean, this is a testament to showing, like, that I'm pretty sure that I can say relatively, with a relatively high degree of confidence, that, like, they're just expecting this to blow over.
Yeah.
Because, during this investor call, they were just like, every time that anybody asked about this, it was like, well, we have no tolerance for this sort of shenanigans as a company. We're going to figure out what was going on here. Our employees, we are dedicated to making this a safe place for our employees to feel like they're blah, 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 blah. Also, Call of Duty is making shitloads of money. Blizzard, don't worry about it. They're going to make more shitloads of money in the near future.
Yeah.
Like, the shitloads are coming, y'all. Which is interesting because the last thing that we have this week is what I find to be a really interesting thing that happens when the business shit show of capitalism works in the favor of people, because there's this lawsuit. I don't know if this is the same lawsuit or if this is a different lawsuit, but this one, because last week there was a bunch of nebulous stories about like a lawsuit filed by shareholders. This is a very specific thing that it's like, okay, in your quarterly filings to your shareholders as a company, you are required to like divulge things that are happening in your company that may affect the price of your stock.
Yeah.
So like, it's the same reason that CD Projekt Red got sued, right?
Yes.
Where it's like, you guys knew this was a shit show and you didn't tell any of your investors, and so then when the game came out and your stock price went down, like your lack of transparency hurt the investor's portfolio, and your job as the person who runs the company, you have an obligation to make sure that your company is making as much money as possible. So if it turns out that you've been hiding something that we would have known about if you had disclosed it to us ahead of time, then that's technically against the fucking rules of company. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I don't know like
either.
exactly, but like that's the basis that this is being put forth, is like, hey, you knew that the California Department of like Housing and Employment was doing an investigation, and you knew that the results were going to be coming out, and you fucking didn't tell anybody. You were just like, everything's fine, and like you knew that there was shit going on in your company. I mean, you did let go the Warcraft guy, that Asur Robbie or whatever his name is. You quietly pushed that guy out the door. It does make me wonder though if anybody has managed to corner Jeff Kaplan to be like, hey Kaplan, what happened? Did you leave on purpose? Like what you just suspiciously whiffed out of here 4 months before this happened. So
that's true. Somebody's probably keeps calling him and he's just not answering the phone.
Yeah, he's just like, nowhere, nothing.
He's
mountains.
just like, I'm glad with my current service provider, and just hangs up.
Right. But this is interesting though, because I feel like this is one of the few places where you could say the things that we care about because the things I care about because they are morally, what I consider to be morally correct or the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Also happen to be the things that don't lose you Overwatch sponsors and get lawsuits from the state of California. So
there's the right and wrong thing to do, and Activision doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me because I personally, after considering this, I don't think you can make a real, I have never been a person who take their 4 demands, right?
Yeah.
I think that the one where they want transparency in hiring, where they want employee input on who gets hired, that one I'm a little iffy about.
That one's the only one that is just weird.
But the forced arbitration thing, go fuck yourself. The only reason that companies require forced arbitration in their hiring contract is to protect them from lawsuits if they do something stupid, right? It in no way protects the employee from it, because it's only a situation where the employee would be bringing action against the company. It's not like it protects the employee in the opposite direction. It really just protects the company from the employee, and that's bullshit. We have the court for a reason. If you can't stand up in court, then you just go fuck yourself. salary transparency thing, 100% for.
Yeah.
Like, that's been bullshit from day one. Like, the fact that a company can be like, don't talk to your coworkers about how much you make, and it's like, you're not my fucking mom. Like,
Yeah.
I can talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about, and if you write it into my contract that you could fire me because I'm like, hey, Michael, I make X amount a year, and you're like, what? I make half that. Why is that? We both got hired on at the same time. Like, those are conversations that if you can't square that problem, like if there's a problem that requires secrecy on the part of every employee for the sake of the company, eat shit. Like, that's just not a thing that I can agree with. Like,
Yeah.
100% no. And then, like, as I said, hiring, I don't know if it's just because I'm fucking a centrist Gen Xer, right? But I'm just like, I don't know, you let the managers do the hiring, and like, I don't know, if you got one guy and just been hiring like if there's one guy that's just hiring nothing but busty ginger women, you may be like, okay, Steve, you're not allowed to hire anybody anymore.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Get the fuck out of here, Steve.
This person worked at a McDonald's before this. What the fuck? Why do you keep doing this?
Right.
So, well, I saw her and she made my Frappuccino, and I thought, this is a great idea.
Right. Similarly, if you've got a guy and all that he hires is 25-year-old white frat bros, then like, come on, man. Like,
He can chug a beer real fast, guys.
Right.
I think he's going to be great.
like, whether he's going to be cool going out for Friday night wings and going to the strip club later, that's all well and good, but like, that doesn't mean you hire the person.
You hire them, and then you find out they only like boneless wings, and you're like, how dare you?
How dare you, sir? Boneless wings are wonderful and way easier to eat, and they do hold sauce just as well as regular wings. And then the fourth one is the hire an independent person to, like, fucking like come in and make suggestions on how to actually fix some of the endemic bullshit. And it's like, yeah, do that. Just don't hire the union busters.
Yeah.
Like, just
The one that's on their website where they're like, we beat up unions all the time.
Yeah.
With sticks mostly.
yeah, like anything that's not that is fine. Like,
Yeah.
that would be one of the few things. And so, some of this other stuff I'm not really qualified to talk about. Like, they talk about what the group that we're talking about, the ABK group or whatever, they were talking about having like listening sessions where, apparently like management will come in and you can just kind of an open forum to talk about stuff. I'm not entirely sure whether that works or not. Like, I know it's a thing I've heard about before, but I've never worked for a company where that was done. So I have no idea whether it would even be useful. But like, those four things that they wanted, out of those four things, I feel like they could have given them one or two, and like, that would have gone a long way to probably keeping bullshit like this from fucking happening. But
Well, that's the thing is, like, the companies work for the company.
yeah,
It's like, if they're, like I said, there's a right and a wrong thing to do. The issue is that in the middle of that is capitalism,
right.
and that's really why it becomes an annoying ass thing.
I think that the interesting thing about this, and then we're going to take a break after that. I thought we were doing so well because we got so through that conference so quickly.
Yeah, but
then,
this
like,
is
Activision Blizzard.
This is a nuanced,
Yes,
some bullshit
yes.
that will involve a whole fucking thing.
Yeah, so I think that, like, for the most part, when we see stuff like this, like, CD Projekt Red is a very good example. Cyberpunk 2077 is a fucking dumpster fire that was rushed out the door. However, they made a shitload of money. It was fine. Like, even when they let people return it, people didn't return it. Like, people kept it. There was a kind of universal return policy. Like, they made a shitload of money off of pre-orders and the hype for this broken, buggy, fucked up, in my opinion, really boring game. But there's a point. there's a point of being a bitch company where, like, if you push it too far past that point, you're gonna piss people off. Where they're just like, I mean, Michael, I'll be honest with you, like, I've been thinking to myself, like, do I want to cover Diablo 2 Remaster when it comes out? I don't know if I do. Like, why? There's probably another game that I could play that wasn't supporting Blizzard, and it's just fucking Diablo. Or, like, do I really want to cover the new Call of Duty when it comes out later this year? I never have a great time. To me, this is the... not to get too far into the weeds, but to me, this is the Chick-fil-A argument where people are like, I don't want to eat at Chick-fil-A anymore. And I'm like, I fucking hate Chick-fil-A. So, like, I never wanted to eat there in the first place. So it was easy. But part of me looks at the Activision Blizzard and goes like, there are 2 games coming out over the course of this year from Activision Blizzard. And look at what we saw in the Annapurna Interactive thing. Look at what's coming out every week on Steam and the Switch and the Epic Game Store, PlayStation and Xbox and the PC and everywhere, right? Like, there's a shitload of games. And if there's not even a shitload of games, there's a Sega Genesis Mini. I got a Raspberry Pi full of games. Like, there's all kinds of things that we could be playing that are not something from a company that's this bullshit.
It really just comes down to the fact that they've made it very easy to not want to buy anything from them.
Yeah.
Because the Diablo 2 thing is like, well, it's just another one of your remasters.
It's just Diablo 2.
And we're not impressed with it to begin with at this point, and we're not really all that impressed with Call of Duty anymore. Like, if I want to play a shooter, there's so many other shooters out there that are coming out this year that I'm also cool with.
I'd rather play that weird Angel Demons in Heaven speedrun game, right?
Like there's that, the Halo Infinite's coming out this year, God willing.
Battlefield 2042.
Battlefield 2042 is coming out.
Yep.
Like, there's so many things.
There's all kinds of games that are coming out. It's not like we're or I don't know, maybe we are. I was gonna say, it's not like the video game industry is in short supply of FPS games. Like,
no, yeah, we're in that issue where we're not even like, the 360 was that time frame where everyone had a shooter, kind of thing.
It's not quite that anymore, but there are a lot on
anymore.
Steam.
But people are still constantly making shooters.
Yeah, and like, I mean, if you're a shooter fan, you're a shooter fan. But like, I just got done playing The Ascent. I really liked The Ascent, and then I moved on to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and I'm like, oh, delightful! I forgot how much I like these games when you sit down and really just like dive into them.
It's that superhero movie argument where people are like, all they make are superhero movies. And it's like, yeah, that's like 10 movies out of the 400 movies that came out this year. It's the same with games. It's like, yeah, Call of Duty is like one out of like 1,000 something games that came out this year.
I mean, look at the games we played on Rage Select this week. It was like The Ascent and Microsoft Flight Simulator, Samurai Warriors 5, Eldest Souls, which was like a boss rush thing. Matt and I played Metroid Fusion, and then Tessa and I played the Neo The World Ends With You. The second one of those came out this week, right?
Death's Door came out. Like,
Back for Blood betas going on. Like, there's so many games to be playing, and so it just kind of comes down to like, and also this isn't just a single whoopsie daisy, right?
Not, because even the CD Projekt Red thing is just like, well, it's a game that you guys fucked up.
You fucked it up,
but there wasn't like also a new story where they like beat up dogs while doing it.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't like there was a guy standing in the fucking breastfeeding room gaping at some lady with her boob out.
Well, there was glitches going on in the background.
Right.
Like, that's not what was going on.
There were toilet cameras and fucking. I mean, goddamn.
Like, the worst thing is like, oh, we did crunch. It's like, well, that's fucked up, I guess, but your game still sucks.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, a lot of me is wondering about that. I don't know. I mean, like, it would be really easy, and I feel like, you gotta make. I've always said you got to draw your own lines, right? Like, every game. It's not if it wouldn't be feasible for me as a person producing video content on YouTube to be like, I'm never going to play a game from a studio that does crunch, right?
No.
Because first off, how do you even know? And second,
that's a tricky thing,
like, that also eliminates like a shitload of games from like the biggest developers out there. Now, like, if you ask me, should developers have crunch, I will say, fuck no, all day, every day. But for this, it's like, I don't know, man. You guys are being such dick faces about this. I already don't like Bobby Kotick. I do not like that lady's response of just like the bureaucratic from the agency that's like, oh, we're here to make sure that you don't systematically fuck over the rights of women when they work for your company. Like, it's not even like, I read the whole document and there wasn't even a thing where it's just like, you don't hire enough women. It was like, when you hire women, you pay them less. You don't promote them, and you're like shitty to them. Like, it just sucks.
It sucks.
And I
haven't liked Activision in a long time, and that was purely from their game standpoint.
Yeah.
And this is a whole new level.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
It's like the DLC we didn't ask for.
Yeah. All right. The heavy story out of the way. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, there's more heavy stories. I'm sorry. There's fun stuff coming. I swear to God.
We hope so.
But it's you want to come back. Don't turn it off now. Come on. Just don't turn it off right now. And we're back. I hope you didn't leave. I hope you guys. Is there still somebody listening? Is it
Have
just
you
like
gone home? Is what you're saying?
Nobody's listening. He's teeing me up. This guy's teeing me up for segues. Whoa, bow. Yep, we're talking about going home. So apparently, Activision Blizzard wasn't the only kind of fucked up company story that we had this week. I don't know. I sent you a different link to this. I don't know if you even looked at it, but one of the co-founders of Fullbright, who is what is this guy's name? Steve Gaynor, has basically like taken a step back from active development of Open Roads, which is that game where it was like the two ladies are driving in the car. And it was like that was going to be their next game, right? So, okay, story time here on Rage Select. Let's tell a story. So, apparently, Gone Home was like 4 people. They put out Gone Home. It was great. It was like, huzzah! Then they hired on a bunch of people for Tacoma. They hired on like, I don't know, I think it was like 5 more people, so it was like 9 people. And they put out Tacoma. And then it was like when they were getting started on Open Roads, they hired on some more people. Annapurna Interactive came on to put the game out. There was more resources or whatever. So apparently over the course of several years, what was it like 12? Yeah, 12 people have left the company, and 10 of them are women.
Jesus Christ.
And when you read this story, what you find out is that apparently this guy, this Steve Gaynor guy, is like a real micromanagey, like dismissing your opinions and like scrutinizing. Apparently, there are several ladies who left this company who basically just their entire job was to like play interference between the Steve Gaynor guy and the development team so that he did just call countless meetings and like dictate teeny tiny changes and like micromanage every fucking thing that was happening. He was kind of apparently a dismissive piece of shit, like just kind of jerky. This whole story is on Polygon. It's I recommend reading it because this is the sort of thing that you get into. But he's taken a step back, and apparently like he is now just like writing over here, and then like there's Annapurna Interactive, and then there's the entire rest of the company, of the Fullbright company, that's like just making this game. Yeah, because this was a bad fucking situation, Jesus man. Christ. So apparently though, like there was one thing where it was like somebody from another company that sent him like where there was some explicit like sexual stuff that was happening there, and they like said they're like, hey, you know, this sounds a lot like what I keep hearing from people who work for your company, not the sex part, but like the real kind of demeaning, dismissive, kind of being a jerk off thing. And apparently he sent that person back just like a Wikipedia article to, what was it, like heuristic, some like situation where it's Shark Week, and then it seems like everything you hear is about sharks, and so you just keep saying, you know, that kind of thing, like essentially being real dismissive and kind of
trying to gaslight the situation.
Yeah, and the other problem here was that like a lot of the women apparently were like, hey, you know, I played Gone Home, I played Tacoma. They seemed like very like progressive, you know, kind of female oriented, or like kind of just not even if not explicitly gendered. Like they seemed like games that were made from a company with a good attitude towards women. And then I came to work here, and I had this fucking guy standing over my shoulder the entire time, fucking telling me every little thing to do. So yeah, it sounds like I mean, again, this part of what I was talking about last week with Blizzard, and about how like having been a little bit in the corporate world, it's like I can kind of understand how if you started with a group of 4 people and you made this game with 4 people, and then it turned out to be this big thing, and everybody was like, you're the best, you're a genius, your game's fucking groundbreaking, you've changed everything, how are you so awesome? And then you make your second game and it's got more people that you feel the need to like really get in there and be like, no, I'm the genius, I know what I did, like I have to make sure that my fingerprints are on here and that everything is working the way it's supposed to. I can kind of see the evolution of how that happened, but part of the thing, I don't know how old the people are that listen to this and how many of them have done their own thing, but like one of the things that happens when you grow as a company, right, is that you have to change.
Yeah.
Like everything, you can't just start as like a company out of your garage, and like the way you run a company out of your garage versus running a company with 20 employees is different. There was no HR department in this company.
Yeah, which is fucking crazy.
Because they had 9 employees, right? So they didn't have a dedicated HR department. They were an indie studio that was running a collaborative thing. So people didn't have a place to complain, and there wasn't a dedicated person who had training to go to this guy and be like, hey, you can't fucking do that. You need to cut the shit out. You're making people feel bad. So yeah, bad vibes, bad stuff.
That's I don't know. It's one of those things where like you get how it happened, but you really wish it just didn't happen.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's really what it comes down to. It's frustrating as hell.
Yep.
And every time somebody the issue is that people did try to tell him these things.
Yep.
And his dumbass just kept not listening to it, and to the point where it finally spiraled to now the world knows.
Right. I'm actually really glad that Rage Select has never been a big YouTube channel.
It helps, yeah.
I've never had to face the crucible of you're the best, you're the greatest, you got 1 million hits, you can do no wrong. Yeah, look at this guy, he's the fucking funniest motherfucker. I'm really glad that my brain has always just been well, if you tell me I'm good, you're lying. But if you tell me I'm bad, I need to memorize that and just think about it all the time over and over again.
It's one of those things that we look at every company that's local that has gotten really big, and it keeps happening to them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Rooster Teeth or the Draft House or any number of those guys. And I'm just, we're at that point where we're never going to reach that point. Kind of thing, and I'm glad. Yeah, because I don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
Because we're never going to be at the point of renting an office.
No.
This YouTube channel is happening from my fucking office. That's where it is.
We've never ran it. If we run into a person who's annoying, they're just not going to be on Rage Select in general. Yep, it's just what it comes down to.
Yep. I'm very happy with Rage Select.
Our
right
HR
now.
Department is Archer.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's funny reading all these stories, and I'm just do you guys hate me? Is that it? I just need an HR department? Nobody's willing to just but I'm no, I'm pretty sure everybody that I record with on Rage Select would be Jeff, you're being a piece of shit. Fuck off. And I'd be oh, I guess I am being a piece of shit.
Everyone would mention it to everyone. It wouldn't take a lot of work.
Unless you all just secretly hate me. Oh, no. The other thing is it helps that I'm not on Twitter or Facebook, really. Yeah. My life is very low-key. So, yeah. But we're not done. We got more. We got some news from Niantic about Pokemon Go that apparently Zacian and Zamazenta from Pokemon Sword and Shield are going to be added to Pokemon Go. Hooray!
Question mark?
Maybe hooray. But if you go to Twitter, I don't know if by the time this comes out, if you go to Twitter, but if you go to Twitter, you'll see Pokemon No trending. Because one of the things that Niantic has done recently is, I didn't know this, but apparently during the pandemic, Niantic changed the Pokemon Go codes to basically be you can catch Pokemon from further away. There's they kind of had a whole social distancing, trying to make it so you didn't have to cluster in one place to do this. And apparently they took that shit out, and people are well, Delta, I don't,
still a thing.
I don't want to go to the gym, right, and cluster around with a bunch of people with their phone, breathing on each other. So there's a question about whether this is expertly calculated to try to get people to shut the fuck up about the COVID stuff, or whether this was just a bad accident. But I don't really know, because I don't really play Pokemon Go.
I think it was a bad accident, because the issue is that they all they saw was that the vaccines are a thing, and they were just everything will be fine from here on out. Right. So they just were let's go back to the way we would have done that. not realizing that the world is stupid.
Yeah. Well, another part of it is, I mean, I read a comment from one person who was just like, well, it was better that way, right? I didn't have to like cluster in. Like, it was just a better user experience overall that I could do this without having to like get all up into a place.
Well, not
and
only
like,
that, you don't have to like keep going to areas that might be kind of sketchy,
right?
Kind of thing. You can just be far enough away where that's not a thing.
Yep.
And just, I don't know, it's frustrating.
Yep, I agree. Let's see. We also had we're going to kind of go through this one pretty quick, but Ubisoft, there was a letter that came out from Ubisoft last week that was basically from some of the folks that are dissatisfied with Ubisoft, talking about how like basically nothing has happened at Ubisoft, that like they've done their whole just like we're dedicated to doing the employee thing, and that they basically just fired some people. And that was it. Like they
scapegoated some people.
Yeah,
really.
they threw a few of the worst people out the door, but that basically things are similar. And I think that a lot of this is due to the fact that, like, again, these employees want to have a say in the way that the company works.
Yeah.
And the last fucking thing in the world that management wants is to let the unwashed, filthy fucking masses have any input. They are there to work. They are there to work. They are there to produce the product that makes the money. They aren't here to tell me, Yves Guillemot, what to do.
Again, it's like, is this a peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand?
Yeah. I built this company, like with my whole fucking Guillemot family, this isn't for these people to tell me what to do. So yeah, this is what I'm afraid is going to happen with Activision Blizzard, is basically like, as soon as the entire news cycle finds something new and shiny to deal with, that this is going to end up, they're going to pay off or crush the leaders of this ABK group. They're going to do their union buster investigation. We're all going to get fixated on Cyberpunk is good now or whatever. Like, and then it's all just going to kind of go away and keep making the money for them. So
it's the issue with a lot of the times when this happens, is that nothing rarely ever fully changes.
Yeah,
because it always comes down to the fact that there's a right thing and a wrong thing to do, and a lot of the times, thanks to capitalism, all these companies have to do is just wait.
Yep.
And then they can just go back to what they were doing before. And a lot of people who were having issues usually just leave, and then and there's so many people who want to work for these companies, they could easily just fill them back in.
Yep.
So yeah.
I want to just, I don't know, I think the last couple podcasts have been a little weird, and I want to make it very clear here. I feel like the word capitalism has come up on like the last couple of podcasts way more than we ever mentioned it like as a system before. And I want to say, like, I'm not over here like trying to start the revolution and like, like put Yves Guillemot in the guillotine or anything. But the thing is that I have watched the general corporate industry in America in general become more and more hostile towards the people that work there, just from like when I started working when I was in my late teens, early 20s to now that I'm in my 40s. I've seen what I consider to be like a downward slope in like the shit that, or maybe an upward slope in like the shit people have to put up with, because companies can just a little bit at a time make it so that this thing is normalized, and this thing, it's like the forced arbitration, right?
Yeah.
It didn't used to be a thing, and then it slowly kind of came in, and now it's kind of just considered standard, right? Whereas I'm sure there's a lot of people who are just like, well, yeah, that's what's in your employment contract. Everybody does that. But it's like, no, not but just a few years ago, it wasn't like that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the reason I use it as a broad term.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like it's capitalism's fault. It's like, no, I'm using it as a broad term, as the idea that people do a lot of dumb shit for money.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to, is that people, when it comes to money, a lot of the times it's easier to just wait something out than spend money on doing the quote unquote right thing.
Right. Yep. 100%. Well, speaking of doing the right thing, Ubisoft and Bungie are apparently taking. This is another one of these stories where I never know how exactly to talk about this. They are taking this group to court called Ring One. Ring One is one of these groups that literally sells a subscription to cheats.
Oh my God.
For fucking Rainbow Six Siege and Destiny 2. Like, they literally sell a subscription service to help you cheat in these online multiplayer games. So, yeah, Bungie and Ubisoft are taking them to court. And they're basically, it's funny because they have to do that thing where they're like, they talk about the individuals in this suit are like crypto, overpowered, and berserker. Yeah,
because they don't know their names.
Because they don't know their names, but they're just like, this is so open and shut. It's like you are actively fucking up the ability of this company to. They made something that's based on like a fair multiplayer experience, and when you like give people the ability to circumvent that, then you've destroyed the experience.
And they're paying for it.
And they're paying, and they're making money from it.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because this particular article, this is a PC Gamer article that at the end basically talks about how, I never even considered this before, about how most of these cheats happen on the PC. And now with crossplay, a lot of console players are now having to put up with cheaters because the PC cheaters are now able to play against like console people.
Didn't even think about that until now.
Yep. Boo. Speaking of online multiplayer, Halo Infinite had their beta last week. You didn't get into that, I think.
No, it seems that like the easiest way to get in was to do it like for PC.
Oh, okay.
And because I did end up realizing I wasn't part of Halo Insider. I thought I was, so I went to sign up for it, and it gives you two options. One is like, well, if you can either try getting stuff for console, if you get stuff for PC, or both. And since I'm not a PC gamer, I just said no to the PC one.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine who was on Facebook who did the whole same process, he's a PC gamer, and he immediately got one to do it. So it's like, okay, it seems more like it was way easier to get a PC one than it was, like especially last minute, than it would be to do console-wise.
Fair enough. So... First off, there was some data mining stuff not Bungie, because it's not Bungie anymore. There's some data mining stuff they didn't take out that are like spoilers for the single player campaign. Yeah. So just like, hey, watch out for that. But one of the things that they mined was the guy that does the voice for the announcer saying like Battle Royale. Now, whether that is like a remnant that hasn't been taken out or... because they haven't actually announced like a battle royale for the new Halo.
No, everyone's expecting one. Like that's because every fucking shooter and their grandma was making a battle royale out of their shooter.
Right.
Whether it's Battlefield, Call of Duty currently, as well as everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if either it was something they were working on, or if maybe it's just another fucking game type. I wouldn't be surprised, really, honestly.
Yeah. So. It seems like the sort of thing. I mean, Halo has in the past had pretty big maps.
They've had some really big maps, like 16 player, and the way things are now, you could easily make even more players on a map. So I don't know. It could just be a game type.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if there's a battle royale for Halo. Is that, I don't know, are we at a point where that's like a bad thing? Where you're just like, boo.
It's only a bad thing if they do it the way the card system was in 5 with that whole thing. I think that's the only time I would consider it a bad thing. But I wouldn't not play a Halo battle royale as long as it's still played like Halo is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean they would be. I mean, let's be clear here. They would be literally insane to be like battle royale and not team multiplayer, right?
Yeah, like it would be fucking batshit insane if you did
only battle royale.
Yeah,
that would be insane. That'd be insane. Let's see. Speaking of online shooters, in an investor call with EA, Battlefield 2042 seems like it's probably going to have both a free-to-play and probably a mobile version or component at some point. During this call, they talked about, Android Wilson talked about how it's like you should think about this new Battlefield like a games as service rather than like a here's this one, and then 2 years later there's going to be another one, and then 2 years later there's going to be another one. Like, this is going to be a platform that we're going to keep adding to and updating over time, and that part of that is probably eventually going to be some kind of, well, they called it a free to start component, which, so, you know, X amount, and then you want to do more, you got to pay. But yeah, there's probably, I mean, at this point, like, Warzone has cracked the doors open, right? Like,
they did a really good job with it, with Warzone doing that sort of thing. Even somewhat of Battlefront 2 had a good time with that sort of idea.
Yep.
So all they have to do is sort of do almost the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably, you know, make that work for quite a while.
Yep. Let's see. We also had the news that the next Battlefield 2042 reveal. So we've kind of been getting kind of like a thing every couple of weeks from them. There was the that weird mode that we had in the EA conference that we could remix everything. There was like the announcement trailer. There was the gameplay trailer. But the next thing apparently is going to be a short film explaining the world of Battlefield 2042, and because there's this whole like. There's mega tornadoes and like resource shortage, but we're not saying anything about climate change.
Oh, okay.
Remember that whole thing?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I wonder if it's going to be like a CG thing or a live action thing is really what I'm curious about.
I wonder if they're going to... Did we know... I don't think they're going to... Are they not having a single player campaign? I can't even fucking remember at this point.
I can't remember with this. That's the thing, is a lot of shooters seem to vary on that.
Apparently the new Call of Duty is supposed to have a single player campaign.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah. From there, I love this story. So China. So last week, the Tencent stock fell 11% after a Chinese economic newspaper called video games, quote, spiritual opium and, quote, electronic drugs.
Jesus.
So this to me is really fascinating because China is a weird fucking place.
Oh, 100%.
Because on the one hand, like, you remember in China, Steam shuts down at like 8 p.m., right? Like, you just fucking can't play video games after a certain amount of time because, like, the government literally is like, you can't play video games after 8 p.m. because we don't want people playing video games. Or, like, there was some story about, they did a story on some college student that played games 8 hours a day, and they were like, look at this degenerate fuck. Like, this piece of shit, he's ruining his life. He's gonna just a scumbag. But they also have like a lot of companies that have video game holdings. They have like some expos now. Like, they want the money from video games, but they don't want Chinese people to play video games, because literally, like, this article came out, and then and then there was basically like a response from, I think it was the Chinese government, that was like, yeah, the word choice of spiritual opium is especially harsh. It would be surprising if the regulators won't do anything about this. Oh, this is an analyst in Singapore.
Okay.
And then that article disappeared from the internet, and like only the print version of it is around now. I feel like, again, this is one of those, like, you know, you've got this like ultra nationalist Chinese newspaper that's like, fucking only degenerates get addicted to video games, and the government's like, shut the fuck up, man. Do you know how much money we're making off of buying up like Western video game companies? Like, you know,
kind of, yeah. It's kind of they make a lot of money off of everything Western right now.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that the government would be like, hey, fucking cut this shit out.
Yeah. So, but there's this last part of this Kotaku article. Tencent promised to institute further restrictions on playtime for underage players, including limiting playtime to 1 hour a day during the week and 2 hours a day during holidays, and banning under 12 players from making in-game purchases. So, again, I always like to point out the way that China does this shit, because it's like, every so often online, you'll see like, they censored the nudity in Devil May Cry, and people are like, we're living in a fucking, my rights are being infringed on because I can't see titties. And it's like, no. Think about a world where you're only allowed to play 1 hour of video games a day, even, you know, like, because that's what the government says.
That's the thing, is people don't really understand what full restrictions are until other countries do like super fucking restrictions.
Yeah.
Even Australia's restrictions are fucking insane to us.
Yeah. Australia, that's just like, Australia wouldn't let Disco Elysium be rated in the country because there was drug use in that game, even though like the drug use was part of the story showing how bad drug use was. Yeah. And like, that was the one where there was that guy that worked in that government building and he brought in some like titty statues of like Witchblade and fucking, like Katana or something. And they were like, this degenerate, this piece of shit, look at these titty statues. And it's like, goddamn, guys, we don't give a fuck. Like Amanda was telling me the story about going to the tattoo shop and how it's like everybody has their own specific tattoos. And like this one guy has just like traditional tattoos. This one guy has like Star Wars tattoos. And there was this one guy and like the entire wall was just like straight up full on hentai. And it's like, who would get full hentai tattooed on them? Yikes!
It's the world we live in.
Yikes!
But it wasn't always like that. We used to be a very restrictive thing. But
true.
Luckily, everyone
chiseled
told
away
them to fuck off, and then
chiseled
we got
away.
titties back in our comics apparently. So,
yep. Yeah. So earlier, I think you mentioned a review brigade.
Yes.
And that was for the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And can you guess why?
Because reasons? I don't know, actually.
So there's one legitimate reason, and then there's the other reason that I have a lot of mixed feelings about that is the actual reason. I don't know if you've seen it, but the fonts in this are shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like these tiny, thin line fonts, and it's like, what? This sucks. That's the reason that I would like, I would be like, all right, I get that. The real reason why the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters are getting review bombed is because they are not on consoles.
Oh.
Because they're only on PC and cell phones. And the thing is that I'm a little torn, Michael, because the first reaction that I have is, well, that's fucking stupid. Like, it's not on those platforms, so why are you giving it like a 0 on the PC because it's not on the PlayStation? But then the other part of me is like, was it you and I like a few weeks back where Square Enix was like, well, we're going to gauge how much interest there is in this classic video game series before we decide whether we're going to put these remasters out on consoles.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you telling me there's a chance that you're just going to be like, nah, we're not going to put Final Fantasy out on consoles, only cell phones? I'm like, well, if that's your position, then I feel like you deserve to get a bunch of zeros on Metacritic.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when we were discussing it, we're like, well, how would they know, though?
Right.
Because they're like, how would you gauge interest?
Well, they can see how many zeros they get on Metacritic.
Apparently, this is a way to do it. I didn't think about it until now.
Yeah. Like, I'm not usually a fan of review bombing, but, like, in this case, yeah. There you go, Square. There's your interest. You've been able to gauge interest in this. I mean, for fuck's sake. The PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, they're all PCs.
Yeah.
Just put it out.
Put them on Switches, man. People would buy that shit immediately.
Fuck yes. Fuck yeah. Anyway, that happened. Let's talk about some trailers. We got a new 2-minute trailer for Life is Strange True Colors that talks about Haven Springs, which is the little town that Life is Strange True Colors takes place in.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I don't know, like more and more excited for this. It just seems like a real cheerful and wholesome kind of game. Like,
it's hard to tell with Life is Strange, though.
Yeah.
Because every now and then they'll be like, this could be something delightful, but then something super fucking weird happens.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, oh, okay, sure.
There's like a bunch of arcade games that you can play. You like go to the music store. I don't know. It seems good. I actually think that like whatever they've done with the engine on Life is Strange, literally this one looks like 10 times better than the previous ones.
It looks more fluid in its motions is a good way of putting it.
Yeah. It also just like the general like lighting and the way that there's kind of like a camera filter almost that just make it cohesive. Like it looks very cohesive and together. And yeah, they talk about like LARPing and like going to the fucking spring festival and all this small town nonsense. And I'm just like, the thing that's weird to me is that one of the characters in here runs like a big record store, and I'm like, does a small town with like 80 people need like a record store?
It's probably because they don't have a Best Buy.
An entire record store? Like, okay. But yeah, I don't know. This looks pretty good. Wreckfest. Never saw this one coming. Wreckfest has got a free update that is putting like the Carmageddon cars and like a Carmageddon game mode into Wreckfest, where you drive around and pulp the like 2D sprites from Carmageddon.
Oh, okay. That's kind of fun.
Which, yeah, I mean, Amanda and I played Wreckfest. It was free on the PlayStation Plus a little while back, and it seemed kind of fun. You know,
Yeah.
Demolition Derby. Let's
That's a good
see.
use of that IP though.
Yep. Ori and the Blind Forest is getting an official like collection on the Switch in, I believe it's October. Yeah, October 12th of both the first and second game, and then like a bunch of postcards and stuff. So if you're into the whole physical thing, I'm curious about how Ori and the Will of the Wisps runs on the Switch, because it kind of ran like dick on the Xbox One X.
Yeah, it
So-
actually. I remember hearing it had a lot of issues running in general. So it's like, okay, hopefully they figure that out for the Switch. I don't know.
But you know, if you're into the physical thing, looks like they've got like, you know, soundtracks and
Ori is a very good series, and I'm glad it's going to be on another console that people have access to.
Absolutely. And then let's see. Now let's talk about the things that Michael's seen. Michael, tell us about Luke from Street Fighter V.
So Luke is a completely new character.
Yeah.
Like he's not from anything from the past.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like an MMA fighter,
Okay.
from people are speculating. And there's people who are speculating on what he has to do with the Street Fighter plot. Because the way they announced him is they're like, well, he's a hint at the future, as what they said.
Right.
Kind of thing. So people are like, is he like the idea of a Street Fighter 6 character in Street Fighter 5?
Yeah.
As well as just like, what is he talking about when it comes to like, you know, I want to be like that man, is what he says.
Right.
Kind of thing. And people are curious, like, what does that mean for the plot of Street Fighter?
Well, because he's the final DLC character for Street Fighter V.
Yes,
Right.
he's the final season, is the third season, I think, is what they're at right now.
Yeah.
Because
This one had,
during this they showed Oro from Street Fighter 3, as well as
Rival Schools.
I think it was Anna, I think was her name.
Yeah.
From Rival Schools, who is, you know, like, from a completely different series, which is why Luke is so surprising, because every character, for the most part, is either a character that was in something Street Fighter related,
Yeah.
whether it was Final Fight, or even like, you know, the plot, like a side character that was in the plot to Street Fighter 4, that kind of thing.
Right.
Which is why Luke is such a surprise.
Because who were the new characters in 5? It was like there was the
Rashid was a new character.
Was the spider lady with the weird hair, or was she 4?
She was from 4.
Okay.
There was a
lady that was like a
there was the apprentice
Rio kind of kickboxer kind of, or like a that lady with the brown hair, and she was in Brazil, right?
Oh yeah, Sean's sister.
Yeah.
Because she had a connection to Sean.
Oh, okay.
And then there was the character who was Rose's apprentice.
Oh, the big guy with the hat, right? The poison guy? Or that's the other guy.
No, because I'm thinking of the fortune teller lady. Because she has an apprentice who's like this Egyptian lady who has like a fortune teller ball. And then, and then there's a guy who might have a connection to 13, or not 13. I can't remember his name.
There were 13 Street Fighters.
What was his name? I can't remember. The big guy from Street Fighter 3 who in the trench coat, who always looked really creepy.
Oh, the detective robot.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
Yeah,
like it's Q. His name was Q.
Okay.
There was a connection
to
like the guy in the top hat. He might have a connection to him.
Right.
Was the thing. There was another new character.
So it sounds like there weren't that many. Like, it's mostly been redos of,
for the most part, even some of the newer characters were just from other things.
Right.
Like one of the ladies that showed up, she was one of the main characters in Final Fight 3.
Okay.
Kind of thing. Same with even
there's a lot from 3, right? Wasn't Ibuki in?
A lot of people from 3 showed up. Like Gil was the bad guy from 3.
Right.
And he popped up. The bad guy from 4 came back.
Yeah.
As like a whole new sort of thing.
Oh yeah,
which is
the dev guy,
Seth,
right?
Yeah.
Seth, yeah.
But now he was a woman.
Oh, he's a lady.
Because he had like a different like a different body kind of thing. Like everybody was from something. Like you could point out what they most likely were connected to.
So here's a question: does this make you in any way, shape, or form excited for 6?
It kind of does, because I like the idea of full blown new characters.
Right.
Because since Street Fighter 4 or since Street Fighter 3, all we have gotten are prequels to Street Fighter 3.
Okay.
And that was the issue, is that every time they came out with a new one, it was like, well, these characters are fucking like have connections to the Bison like consistently. It was just like, I want to know what happens after 3.
Right.
Like, you guys keep fucking being like, well, Bison again. I'm like, I don't fucking care about Bison anymore. Like, what happens after
Michael
Gil?
Shadaloo.
Yeah.
Shadaloo, psycho power, Michael.
And so, yeah, like, everyone wanted to know what happens after Gil. So this is what makes me excited is, like, we're finally going to get past fucking the Bison Street Fighter 2 plot time frame.
Okay.
We're finally going to get to the point where Ryu has mastered, the past the Satsui no Hado. We're going to finally get past the point where, like, all, like, Charlie's been avenged. Like, everything is now, like, all the Street Fighter 2 stuff has now been, like, fucking resolved.
Does that mean we get, like, an adult version of Karen and who's Ryu's little girl that follows Ryu? Sakura. Karen and Sakura.
In Street
like,
Fighter,
grow them all the way up.
Because in Street Fighter 5, she's, like, in college now, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wait. Yeah, they were like, those were like alpha characters, right? Because they happened before.
Some of them were alpha characters. Yeah, because that's the thing, is there's so many prequels to 2. There's either prequels to 2 or they're prequels to 3.
Yeah.
So we've been stuck in that fucking stagnant part of the timeline.
Okay.
And so we're finally at the point where, like, the Shin Shoryuken is the main fucking Shoryuken kind of thing, and I want to know what happens from here on out.
I have the idea that you're really excited because of the story of Street Fighter, not like necessarily.
Yes, actually,
because I feel like Street Fighter has become so focused on just like the tournaments and like the metas and like adding stuff. So I like that. I don't think I even ever went back and played the Street Fighter 5 story mode because I know that finally did come out.
It was so weird, but luckily it was the finale of the Bison plot.
Okay,
is what it felt like, and like the only thing that was annoying is some of the new characters had nothing to do with anything.
Okay,
especially that guy with the V on his face, the one that actually had the 5 on his face.
Oh, yeah.
This, like, I don't even remember his name anymore, but he was only spoken like growls and shit.
Oh, he was like, he had a kind of Blanca-ish hair, but like dreads, like the big
everyone's like, what is this guy's deal?
Yeah.
And it's like, he's fucking nothing. It's like, well, what the fuck was the point of any of this?
Well, speaking of what the fuck was the point of any of this, we also got a trailer for Black Panther War for Wakanda, which was a big old motion comic.
Yeah, it's the plot of the DLC as far as we can tell.
Right. Which appears to just be the plot of Black Panther the movie.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, I was really surprised. I don't read Black Panther the comics, but I'm like, well, you've got it's being narrated by the lady, like the head of the guard lady, and then it's like T'Challa's father got killed, T'Chaka got killed, and now T'Challa's the new Black Panther, but he's still kind of living in the shadow, and like Shuri is there as well, and it's just like, this is just the movie. It Claw's the bad guy, and it's like, this is just a fucking movie, guys. Like, I don't know. I mean,
well, there's been some stuff that's been mentioned in some of the war tables kind of thing. Mm-hmm. One of them involves the fact that like he might get betrayed by somebody.
Okay.
Kind of thing. And there's at the end of this thing, the woman who's doing the I can't remember her name, who's doing the voiceover of it. It shows her, but she has 2 different eye colors. And then the game has like said that Monica, whenever she clones somebody, they have 2 different eye colors because she hasn't figured that shit out yet. Kind of thing. So people are speculating, so, well, maybe at one point she gets kidnapped and she gets replaced by a clone, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, again, like, but I actually do play a lot of Avengers, and I do follow the plot that's going on in it.
So you're the one.
Yeah, there's dozens of us, Jeff. Dozens of us. And so I'm legitimately, like, since I'm actually legitimately within the plot, like, plot heavy with this game, that I am legitimately interested to see how they do the Black Panther storyline.
I'm interested to see.
And it's like 8 hours long, apparently.
Okay.
So that's actually kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's a whole new campaign. And I like the original campaign a lot. And even the story stuff they've done since then, as short as they've been, I've also liked it a lot.
I'm just like, I mean, even in the comics, has Claw ever really been like an actual threat to anybody? Because like,
not really.
Like, just like they've really set him up as like Black Panther's arch nemesis, and I'm like, the guy with the laser hand, right? Like,
yeah, like, even my issue with Claw is that like even the movies were like, and he's dead,
right?
Kind of thing. It's like, well, what's the point of this?
Yeah, yeah. Like, so I don't know. I guess we'll see. And we got a full release date too of August.
Yes, 16th, which is very
17th.
soon.
17th. The war table's on the 16th.
Oh, okay. 17th then.
Yeah.
And it's all free. So, and the game's constantly on sale. Like, it's like $23 right now for PS5.
Wasn't it on either Game Pass or PS Plus or both.
It was on PS Plus at one point. No, it was PlayStation Now.
Oh, okay.
But they took it off of that. But they did a free weekend this past time.
Oh yeah.
So I guess they keep trying to get people to like be enticed to buy it. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Good luck to you, Square Enix. Michael and those 11 other guys, they're going to be there on day one.
100%.
So
I got some people who might play with
Where's Spider-Man? Where the fuck is Spider-Man?
Where's anybody else at this point?
Come on. You got two Hawkeyes and you got a Black Panther and like, okay, it's fine. But how old is this game now? 2 years?
It's
a year and a half?
only been like a year. It's going to be a year next month. Because it came out in September.
Holy shit. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. We got a few more things, and then I think we might have time for a question or two. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is going to be broken off into a standalone piece of software. So you don't no longer have to have Ghost of Tsushima in order to buy it. They're also putting in a Rivals mode where it's basically like 2 teams of 2 face off against hordes, and then like they get items that they can use to basically like throw shitty modifiers over to like the other team.
Okay. That's kind of fun.
They're also raising up, I believe, the level cap and changing the way the gear is set up, obviously in order to, get you to spend money in the microtransaction store. But you know what? Like, I'm fine with that.
A lot of people had a lot of fun with that, so good for them.
Yep. 2K is going to be announcing a new game this month.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. So I mostly brought this out because there are two Hail Marys that I feel like I want to see happen. One of them is there's been this rumor that Firaxis is making a Marvel XCOM game.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Which I would play the absolute and total shit out of. And then there's also Hangar 13, who made Mafia 3, is making a game called Codename Volt, which is supposed to be an action game with, quote, Saints Row and Lovecraftian influences. And I would be interested in whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, I'm like, what does that mean? But whatever it does, it sounds exciting.
Yep. It's like fucking gumbo and barbecue. I'd never thought of them together, but that sounds good to me.
Sounds like a great idea.
So, I don't know. We'll be finding out at some point this month. That's the good news. Bad news, Amazon's pushed back the New World. Michael, I feel like everybody keeps talking about this game and I don't fucking care. Like, I don't know.
I saw my old job, my coworkers were talking about it. They actually did play it.
Uh-huh.
And they liked the idea of it, but, I don't know. Other than that, I didn't really hear much about it.
It's supposed to be coming out originally at the end of August, but due to player feedback, they're pushing it back to September of this year. Which, I mean, that's good that they're taking that into consideration. It's just, it's so weird. It's been so weird for the last 2 or 3 years watching Amazon just fail at putting out a video game. Like, I mean,
they've been failing horribly.
I know it's not like really hard, but God, they suck at this.
What makes it surprising is the fact that it's Amazon. It's not surprising when an indie studio fails constantly, kind of thing, because it's an indie studio. They only have so much money to make something work. Amazon literally sent a fucking rocket into the space.
Jeff Bezos' dick ship
kind of thing, but they can't fucking figure out how to make a game.
It's like, why don't they just go buy a whole game and publish it?
Yeah, it would be easier. So this might be
a finished game.
This might be the first time something might work, but that all depends on since it's an MMO, it depends on how long its fucking longevity gets from there.
But also, isn't it a PvP MMO? It's like you get like 60 people on an island, and then they're all fighting like in 2 teams to see who can control the land or whatever. And I'm just like,
I don't even know.
It sounds fucking terrible to me. Like, I don't. Also, this I don't know, this, yeah, see here, this is in a Polygon article where it says, the game features 50 on 50 fights where entire groups clash to take the land. Oh, maybe that's just like their PvP mode or whatever, but I don't know. I also hate this time period. I guess people like it, but the whole like muskets and bows and stuff,
it all just depends on what people end up liking about it.
Yeah.
Because MMOs are live and die based on the people who play them. So
absolutely.
We'll see how this goes.
As I mentioned before, Diablo Immortal also got pushed back into next year. Don't you guys have cell phones joke here?
No.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's funny because I actually had some interest in this because I read a bunch of articles of people that were in the beta, and they were just like, actually, this game is really good. Like, it's really compelling and it's good. But and I'm like, well, go fuck yourself, Blizzard. Like,
yeah, because I remember hearing them saying that they wanted to put a lot of work into making it an actual game, even though it's a mobile game.
right.
And, it sounded like they were doing pretty well with it, but, it's a bad time for them to have been making it in general, apparently.
Also, if it had come out a few months ago and I was already playing it, I mean, I guess then it would have been harder to quit in disgust as opposed to like one of our revenue streams has been pushed out even further away from where it is right now. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's not as exciting, Michael. It is not as exciting as the fact that Ariana fucking Grande is having a concert in Fortnite. You here for that Ariana Grande Fortnite concert? You gonna be there day one?
No, I'm good.
Can happen tomorrow. You're off work. You got nothing to do. Download Fortnite. Come fucking watch Ariana Grande.
As long as I get to be Superman during it.
The funny thing about it, right, is that I think, or I'm not entirely sure. Oh no, okay. All right. When I turned on my PlayStation, the PlayStation Store was like Ariana Grande and Fortnite, and I literally thought it's just only now it's making sense to me. I literally thought, are they just selling a skin for Fortnite where you could just be Ariana Grande?
I thought that's what it was when you brought this up, but I forgot that they did that fucking
Travis Scott and a few other ones.
They
but
also did the Palpatine announcement.
Oh yeah,
where he's like, "I'm alive, bitches," and it's like, oh, okay, sure.
Yep. Do you remember that Post Malone Pokemon thing that happened?
Do, yeah, actually.
I actually never talked about it, but I watched the entire music video for the Katy Perry and Pikachu song.
I did not get to watch that.
It's a whole fucking music video where Katy Perry and Pikachu go wandering around, and they're like spooking around, and like young Katy Perry is there, and like old Katy Perry and Pikachu are like making sure that her life gets on track, and she goes to the concert and does her indie rock performance to get on the road to being a star. And I'm just like, weird. This is weird.
It's really weird.
This is weird. Also, Ariana Grande is having a concert in Fortnite. That's also weird. Also, Guile's hair is in Fortnite, and that's weird. There's a Guile skin in Fortnite, and his hair looks absolutely weird.
I think Guile is the weirdest looking of the two because there's also Cammy in it. I think Cammy looks great.
Yeah.
But Guile's face just kind of weirds me out.
It's very strange. It's not chunky enough. Like it's a little too.
With the sunglasses, it's better, but with it, there's something just off about him.
Yeah.
But I do love the deep cut of the handcuffs on him.
The fact that he's got handcuffs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's an old thing where like about Guile being able to cuff people, quote unquote, in the old Street Fighter games.
It's a bug.
Yeah, it was a bug.
If you do a flash kick and you rake your hand down the buttons in a certain pattern, you would start to do a flash kick and then basically stun lock the other person no matter where they were on the screen, and then you just walk up to them. I know because I used to play Street Fighter at the Stop and Go over by my house, and one day I went down there on a Sunday with my precious quarters that I had saved up, and there's some asshole there who just handcuffs, and I was just like, what are you doing? You're being like a fucking 14-year-old. You're like 30. You're just beating some 14-year-old Street Fighter using a bug. And it was just like, why? Because then he would just walk up and combo, and then I would try to do something, just handcuffs. So I hate handcuffs. I hate them so much.
It is a deep cut, though.
It is, yeah.
He just looks fucking weird to me.
It's so weird.
He just looks so strange.
So fucking
Cammy
weird.
looks great, but he looks fucking just...
Well, it's also his hair.
Weird.
His hair looks ridiculous. It looks absolutely redonkulous.
I think it's too big.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you look at the older ones,
This
and
one
they're
right
not
here,
as tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one, they're just like, more hair. It'll look like an upside-down volcano. And last but not least, Michael mentioned this. This mod actually came out several years ago, but trended last week on Twitter of basically a thing of dressing up Link from Legend of Zelda Wind Waker to be a tiny little Solid Snake, and then having him walk around and do stuff while the Metal Gear music plays, and it's kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun because they instead of having the sword, they made it to where he has a
little knife. Yeah.
So he's basically CQCing people to death.
Yeah.
And then they turned his bow into the Sokov.
Yep.
Socom.
Yep. It's funny because I think it starts out okay, and then the more it goes on, and the more it's just like, this is just a skin. Like there's nothing else
100%.
really going on here outside of that.
Because this is just like a level in the game.
Yeah.
That is used for a lot of sneaking stuff, so it just sells that idea more.
Yep.
But I was never the biggest Wind Waker fan, but if I could just be Solid Snake instead, I think that would be funnier.
I tell you what, the other thing I should have put it in here as well was there was a guy that did you see this, that took Wind Waker and rendered it in the Unreal Engine? Like,
I did see that, actually.
Which, that was crazy. I've never been the biggest fan of like the kind of cell shading, but like this thing looks great. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I wish that some of these like wackadoodle projects that people make would come to fruition, would be a thing.
That's the fun thing about Unreal, is that people will make some really interesting things. Like, I saw a guy make a super realistic Dragon Ball Z in an Unreal.
Yeah.
And it looked fucking great.
Well, a lot of it's interesting too, because with the way that the new Unreal 5 engine does like lighting and shading, like you can put relatively simple models in and they look way better just because of the way the light hits them. So yeah,
like the sheer detail on the Link's hat is fucking nuts.
Yep. And that's not the entirety. We got a few minutes left. Let's do some let's do questions.
Is Bobby Kotick a dick? Yes, he is. The end.
Let's see. We're going to do one email question. We're going to do one Discord question. Yeah, let's see if I can find a good one here. Okay, we'll do this one, and we'll do this one. So, Vanish Knight writes in and says, "Hello, Jeff and Michael. Now that we are in a pandemic for over a year, and popular media such as movies and shows generally show that society crumbles in an apocalypse." Okay. We've been in a pandemic for over a year now, and popular media, such as movies and TV shows, generally show that society crumbles during an apocalypse. However, society has adapted and moved on. How do you think people feel now about apocalyptic movies, shows, and video games? Unhyped, and that is from Vanish Knight. So, now that we have lived through or are still getting to the end of a global catastrophe pandemic, do you think that's going to change the way that fiction feels about pandemics and apocalypses in general? I don't think so.
No, actually, I think it does, but only in the fact that people have been joking about it so often.
Yeah.
Where people will be like, it's like, yeah, I watch zombie movies, and I'm like, how could we get to this point? And it's like, oh, it's because people would pretend it's a hoax for like ever, and then just get deliberately bitten by a zombie kind of thing. And I feel like there will be stuff that will use that idea, kind of thing more, which is annoying, but also really funny kind of thing.
Wasn't there? God, what was there? Was there some shit ass movie that came out last year that was like, the year is 2050 and it's COVID 56. Nobody's touched another human being in years, but now you get COVID, you turn into like a rage zombie or something like that. And everybody's inside.
I forgot what it was called, but yeah, it was some dumb bullshit.
Silly bullshit.
That I don't even remember who was in it, but I remember hearing about it. And every time I heard more about the movie, it sounded stupider and stupider. But it does change people's look at stuff, like, because it does make people it makes them more understanding of certain things. It's like Death Stranding is the perfect like thing that people were like, that's stupid. Why would anybody like do that? And it's only delivery people out and about. And then that's exactly what fucking happened. And then Death Stranding became one of the most fucking like relevant things ever made.
Yep.
And so, like, people can now look at those things in a new light because of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much it'll change how people make them from now on, but it definitely makes people look at past ones and look at them in a different new light.
Wasn't the whole reason that Sam Porter Bridges could walk around in the wasteland because he had like previously been infected with what was the reason for that?
The reason was that his blood...
Did he have antibodies? COVID antibodies?
He basically had antibodies because his blood... He couldn't die from the things.
Right.
Because his blood constantly would, like, fuck them up.
Yeah.
And every time he died, he just came back.
Right.
Or most people just fucking exploded, and then that was the end of it. Like, that was the whole thing, is he was the fucking, like, I can survive this kind of thing. And then there was an explanation for why eventually.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But it also came down to the fact that the world was full of delivery drivers that went fucking mad,
and nobody would open the door.
Yeah, nobody would open the door. It was a lot of just FaceTiming with people,
and everybody was afraid to get online.
Yeah, it was the whole thing. Like people were afraid to talk to each other, and it was fascinating.
Yep.
And it's so much more fascinating now. Like when that director's cut comes out,
I'm gonna play it again.
I'm gonna play it again and
play it again.
Look at the whole thing in a new light.
Yep.
Also, I'm gonna try to do all the pizza deliveries this time.
Oh yeah, I did those
because I stopped midway because I was like, I'll get back to this, and I didn't realize there were ones that just you can't get back to.
Mm-hmm. Eventually get into the little Troy Baker's apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I personally think that a lot of the apocalypse fiction that we write has more to do with the apocalypse being an easy narrative device to make stories in. So I don't think that the actual reality I think that there might be some interesting nuance that comes out of it, but like, most apocalypse media isn't even about illness anyway, right?
No.
Like it's the zombie thing, and then you've got robot apocalypse, you've got Fury Road, right? You've got the Guzzling. I don't know. I don't feel like there are that many. I mean, when I think about illness apocalypse movies, it's like what, Outbreak or was it Contagion? Was that the Steven Soderbergh one
I think
or whatever?
So. It's been a while.
It's less about, I don't know. Those always tend to be more realistic, so it's not like, I don't know.
I think Shaun of the Dead has the ending that's the most like real life right now, which is the fact that people
just live with the zombies.
You just lived with it.
Yeah,
and you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, and then let's do one from our Discord. Let's see. Dong Disciple writes in and says, "Hola, Jeff and Michael. It has been forever since I've written into the podcast. It's been so long, in fact, that between questions I've gotten married, had 2 kids, and moved to drier than a nun's vagina, Las Vegas." Jesus, I've been doing this for a long time. My question for you is, what games do you think I should play to get my kids into gaming? I don't mean what can I play that they can watch. For that, the 3-year-old digs Persona 5 Royale, and the 1-year-old likes Tetris. I want to know what you think they can handle playing. Praise the sun, the beard, the brush, the holy Murph, and that's from Victor, a.k.a. Dong Disciple. I mean, honestly, man, like, creative mode Minecraft is probably a great place to start, just for like, you could fuck around, right? Like, you just fuck around. There's no stakes. You can just fuck around, do stuff. You can build stuff. I mean, that's like a virtual toy right there.
Yeah, it's literally just like Legos almost.
Yeah.
That sometimes something explodes.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's why you play in creative mode, right? Because then you don't have the hunger, you don't have the enemies. It's just like mine stuff, pick stuff up.
No, but I mean, you can
make
still
stuff.
blow stuff up, is what I mean.
Oh, with the TNT, yeah.
Like I don't mean like the enemies. Like that's the thing, is that there's so many games that are so much more creative for little kids now, like that are like that, like the building ones, as well as just like things that are just like walk around and look at things.
Mm-hmm.
I still think platformers are one of the best answers, whether they're like the Mario games kind of thing, because a lot of those are just like fuck around kind of thing, infinite life almost options.
Yeah.
There's so many, and they're challenging enough that they get to learn a lot of reflex stuff from it. Because the Minecraft stuff's good for just like starting off, but I think a platformer thing is the idea of getting them into the idea of reacting to your environment.
Super Mario Bros. I would say if you can get a ROM, this is what I wish would have existed back in the day. If you can get a hacked ROM of Super Mario Brothers with infinity lives, because like, I mean, I don't know, unless you're fucking like willing to put in the time. What, you're going to go to World 3? You're going to do the thing with the to get infinity lives, like out of the
shell
on the end steps. But it's like, then you have to like teach a kid how to do that, and that was hard as shit.
Oh, it's difficult as hell. But there's plenty of just even the newer Mario games that just have that sort of idea, where it's just like baby mode. Like, you die too many times, here's a gold,
you get the gold Tanuki suit,
and just fucking kill everything.
Yep. Mario games are great. I mean, across the board, like
100%.
From 1 to Odyssey, like they're all going to be great.
Like you can't give a kid Crash Bandicoot right away.
Yeah.
Like they have to at least be like 7 or 8 so because they have an understanding of how fucking difficult that game can be.
They have to have enough personality for you to crush their spirit
Exactly.
properly. When
That's how.
don't ever let your kids play Crash Bandicoot.
I was like 6 or 7 when Crash Bandicoot was the thing, so I was a big fucking fan of that. But I was also a big fan of the Mario games prior to that point.
Yeah.
And like I got taught it's always young people can grasp platformers really easily, whether it's like the old Mega Man games, the Mario games, even the fucking Jack and Daxter games kind of thing, or Ratchet and Clank, those types of things.
I'm trying to think of like a 3-year-old though.
You
know what you know what game a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old could play together? Dive kick.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you could get them to play dive kick.
Even a 1-year-old who can't even like see what the screen is doing could just bang on buttons until they manage to get a win.
Also, the party games.
Like Mario Party.
Those old Rabbids games.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Like there are a lot of games like that are just like get them into the idea of using a controller, and then go from there. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you wanted, like, the thing is that I remember when I was 3 of not being able to do very much when I was 3 years old. Like that's pretty young. Like
my brothers told me the first game I ever played was Mega Man when I was like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
and I doubt I was good at those games. But again, like I said, platformers, people can grasp a platformer really easily. Beat 'em ups are another thing that they can grasp really easily. Just punch, jump, punch, that kind of thing.
You know what? Pac-Man.
Pac-Man's a good answer, yeah.
It's 4 directions. That's it. Like, no input necessary, and it's real one-to-one what you're doing with the stick. It's like getting you used to the stick. You might think about like old retro arcade games like Burger Time or probably Robotron's a little much. Robotron's a little much for me at this point.
I was like, Centipede.
Tempest.
Kind of
I liked Tempest a lot when I was a kid with the little dial. I mean, I don't know, you'd have to have the dial, but
Punch Out.
like Donkey Kong.
The old school Donkey Kong
is interesting.
I really wish they would re-release Donkey Kong 84, which is that Game Boy game that had that versus stuff, because that would be a fun one, because that's also like part platformer.
Yeah, I think that's. I think it's like, obviously the cognizance of children is lower, right? So it's like you want to try to think of the simplest stuff that you can, and
I'm sure they still make like pre-K type games,
old
like
arcade
Sesame
games,
Street games, that kind of thing.
Atari 2600 games might,
maybe,
if you can find one of those, like NES, some NES games. I'm trying to think of other than Mario, like what were the other? You said Punch Out, but like, man. Yeah,
well, it was more of a joke than it was an actual like suggestion. Cause there's a lot of old platformers like that gets re-released. Like the Disney Afternoon Collection is a good example of that, which has the DuckTales games, the Chip and Dale games, as well as fucking what was that other one? Tailspin.
Tailspin.
That was the other one. There's plenty of games that like there's plenty of ones that get re-released that I think would be a lot of fun for kids even now. Like look at the games that you played as a kid, and then just sort of work from there.
Yeah.
Like be like, what did I play at that point that I felt like I understood? Like remember as far back as you can, and then go from there. That's why I brought up beat 'em ups, because I fucking loved beat 'em ups as a kid, which is the reason I love them now, because they were so easy to grasp, which was just like punch that thing to death.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of I would say stuff with a stick. Stuff with just a...
Get them to play
like,
Doom.
Atari 2600 stick. I don't know about that.
I started playing shooters at Duke Nukem 3D, so...
Oh, boy.
I was very young at that point.
And now you're on the Rage Select podcast. So
I got to meet Duke Nukem, and I got him to endorse us. So
That's true. Yeah, I don't know.
They'll get him to endorse you.
I think a lot of it is going to be based on how much they're able to do. I still think that Minecraft though is
a great one though.
Is a way to like
you got to be with them though during it.
To introduce them to the complicated control scheme, right? But get them used to it in a non-threatening situation. So plus, you just build stuff. And then once your 3-year-old turns 6, you get him in the Kerbal Space Program. You get him in the space program.
Teach them science.
That's right.
Physics and such.
Teach them how to calculate delta V. That's what everybody needs to know how to calculate delta P. And that's our show for this week. Michael, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find us on oneofus.net. I forgot to mention that earlier today is that I watched a movie on Netflix that we just reviewed called The Last Mercenary with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh my God!
He plays a super spy. Who's
it's like for realzos?
Who is on the run?
Okay.
Whose son is now in trouble, so he has to go and save his son.
Right.
From this thing. It's a movie that was made originally in French.
Okay.
So I watched it in French, but it has an English dub to it. It's a lot of fun.
All right.
We just did a review for that, so that should be up probably by the time this is out.
Cool. MailerRageSite.com is the email address, or if you want to do Discord questions, you come to patreon.com/RageSite. I am running low on questions, so if you got all the way to the end of this podcast, send in your questions. Just, I don't know, send them in. You got some hypotheticals, you need some stuff, just send them in. Send all your questions. All the questions.